Yep. Kane going to be the first champion to hit the ban board there for Allergic to objectives. Seems like they don't want to have anything to do with that. Kind of the same thing. I think the same thinking as the getting rid of the Viego, making sure that you can kind of deny some of that CC capability and also just that great team fighter that loves to get mobile around the map. Meanwhile, RGB, they are getting rid of the Aphelios and the Poppy. I like seeing that Poppy ban. And the Talon for some reason.
Yeah, the Talon is really a shot at Minion Taxer. Minion Taxer is a jungler that mains Talon for the most part. He's a I don't want to say a Talon OTP. He can play plenty of other champions, but on the Talon specifically, he is an absolute menace. So I would anticipate that we will see a Talon ban all 5 games if this goes the distance.
Yep. And I think that's the other thing that we haven't talked about too is kind of how difficult it can be to draft in a full best-of-5 series, because as champions start to hit the ban board and as you start to have to dig deeper in your pockets, you can be really challenged to put together a team composition that works not only just on the rip, but also works for all the people that have to play it.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier in this conversation, Mordekaiser being a priority pick throughout this tournament. We're seeing it right now, an immediate first pick for the side of RGB, followed by the Syndra. I am a big opponent against the Syndra first pick. There are too many champions in the game that fundamentally can beat Syndra early on. Any champion with movement that's very sticky, that can dodge her stun, is a horrible thing to go against. Irelia, Sylas, Ahri, Xerath is a good pick into Syndra because you can kind of sit back and peg from a distance, and so it's just a little bit scary to see. Gwen is also good into Syndra, not in terms of lane, 1v1, but later on in the game, because you can't actually land your stun on Gwen. It makes things a whole lot harder.
Yep. Already liking this core that's starting to come out from Allergic to Objective 2. I think Shen Gwen is a lot of fun to see on the Rift. Interesting to see where they want to flex those, because Gwen could go to the jungle. She could also go top lane. She could be a support. So a little bit of flex there. Anivia, though, going to be in the mid lane. I like that as a potential answer to Syndra as well, being able to lock her down. They're both immobile, and so if you're going to be immobile, you might as well fully index into it. Plus the passive safety that Anivia has with Egg Form. Making sure that you really have to commit everything. Like, even if you do get the kill as a Syndra, knocking Anivia into the egg form, it's really difficult for you to kind of finish off there because you don't have consistent cooldowns. Like, it takes a while for that damage to come back up. So I like the draft adaptation from Allergic to Objectives to index into that part of the fight.
Yeah, and showing us immediately that they actually plan on sending the Shen into the jungle. Shen jungle has been a rising star in the solo queue ladder. Its win rate is skyrocketed absolutely exponentially in the past few weeks, simply because it's so easy to execute. You can be everywhere all at once using your ultimate. Not only that, but the Anivia pick is really, really good combined with the Shen. If you get Anivia into egg, Shen can still ultimate the egg, so it's just almost impossible to kill Anivia with the egg available. So you almost have to kill Anivia and then work around to killing her a second time, and it's a big ask for Syndra, whose ultimate is on a long cooldown.
In the meantime, Sivir was the pickup there for RGB. Pantheon hitting the ban board. What does Allergic want to ban now? They're going to try and make some moves, I think, to protect their potential top lane pick, which is likely going to be that Shen, and then I would expect Gwen to fully go in the jungle. And they want to start banning out anything that can try to fight that, so the Cho'Gath would obviously be a natural takeaway there. Volley, interesting enough, being taken away by RGB. The final ban, do they want to spin another one towards the jungle, or do they potentially want to protect their top? Well, no, they don't need to spin anything towards top lane, so I think it's probably just going to protect the ADC, so anything that might be able to get onto any pick that they make.
Yeah, I do like the Sivir pick here. You're able to essentially negate a possible Shen taunt, a Anivia stun. The Sivir shield has a lot of value already. The problem is if there are even more champions drafted on the side of Allergic to Objectives, champions that have ranged stuns, that basically provide a secondary follow-up to anything that Sivir spell shields, that's where it starts to become dangerous, and that's why I think they're picking the Lulu, just to make sure that there's that extra degree of safety. Yeah,
and that's a common pick with Sivir too, just that passive shielding in the lane, and then also just the lane trading as well. It's just a great enchanter to pair with Sivir, who normally does well with just about anything you want to pair with it, but I think Lulu is particularly, I don't know, it's just like some bot lane champions kind of have the natural duo that they really like being with, and I think for Sivir, Lulu is one of those.
100%. I mean, alternatively, you can go Morgana here, and that's a relatively safe lane with Sivir, but then you lose a lot of the actual 2v2 power. Morgana is one of those champions that's solely reliant on that binding landing, and if it doesn't, then you pretty much just auto lose the engage, or the 2v2 battle. So drafting the Jinx here, pretty standard. You want a late game answer to the Sivir so that she's just not running over your team. Plus, obviously, getting excited is very scary to deal with. You're going to have the range that you need to stay away from the Syndra stun when needed, and also you're going to just want to be staying away in general from the Mordekaiser in these long-term team fights. I wonder what... Oh, the Diana!
Ooh, we saw this earlier.
That means that they've got to be pivoting something. Who's going to be supporting with this
It's
team?
going to be Shen. It's going to be Shen. Or it might be Jinx and Nivea.
It might be Jinx and Nivea. I just don't see why. It doesn't seem that good. Shen and Delulu sounds abysmal. I really don't know what they plan on doing here. The Anivia makes a little bit more sense. You've got the range to be able to actually poke out and clog up Sivir's spell shields, but the Jax answer into the jungle against Shen, or would it
Diana.
be?
Yeah, so it's gonna be Diana jungle, I think.
I think Gwen wins the matchup. But here's the thing. I really have never seen this matchup before, and I've never played into it. So I really don't have a firm grasp of how this matchup goes. If anyone else has a good idea in the chat, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, I'm not really too familiar with this matchup. I don't really know who wins towards the late game. But my key instinct says that Gwen wins, right? Because there's no real a way for Jax to dodge any of his abilities, whereas Gwen has the Shroud, which allows her to dodge the stun.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for the most part, I think over long trades, I think the Gwen definitely wins. But I will say that if you are proactive in the Jax and making sure that you're managing that stasis field, I forgot the name of that ability, but making sure that you're attacking her when that's down and that you're using your Grandmaster Strike. For that, I think or Grandmaster's Challenge for that, rather, I think that it makes it a little bit easier to win those trades. Jack's also one of those notorious champions that, is a lane pusher, but I think he's equally matched by the Gwen, so it should just see, individual skill-wise who will be able to win that.
100%. Also curious to see how Minion Taxer pilots this Diana. We know him as an assassin jungler first and foremost. He's well known for his Talon. Diana, another excellent assassin jungler, but is heavily dependent on getting those early advantages and getting those kills, which supplies a lot of that power that you need. We saw in the last series between Psychosis and Big Pythons that the Diana got really ahead mid, and then eventually, because of Big Python's ability, Psychosis' ability to kind of hold on and hold off that power, they were able to come back into the game. I wonder if Minion Taxer is going to be able to get the same advantage.
Yep. And maybe looking for an early gank here, although Blinding Light wants to step up and potentially
Dangerous.
This is going to see that. Will just pop the shield for a little bit of passive movement speed. The Q to follow is just going to flash over the wall. So they'll be happy to get the summoner from the support early. But ultimately, no one going down there. Something I want to point out real quick that I thought was interesting, and I don't really know if there's a particular reason for this, or maybe if I'm wrong, but I did notice that Blue Sea started the blue buff down there on the bot side and is now tracked to the red. I would figure that because Moore doesn't really need mana, that you would rather start on the red and just do AoE camps, but I guess maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think with the modern iteration of a taunt landed on the Jinx is or onto the Lulu's a little awkward. Takes a lot of damage in return, so...
Gonna get...
Oh, he stepped on the trap!
That's first blood going over to ATO. Yeah, stepped on the trap. Tried to sidestep it, but ended up clipping it. That's definitely not what you wanted out of the Lulu, and that safety that they were supposed to have starting to not show.
I'm gonna keep it $150. I don't think there should be no excuse for Lulu getting caught there. He's just playing a little bit too far forward. He ended up getting hit by the Shen taunt. He didn't even flash taunt. He just taunted straight up and caught her. It's just not what you want to see in a bot lane duo that you should be easily winning simply by outranging the opposition. Meanwhile, though, what you're saying about the jungler and the pathing itself, I think in the modern iteration of jungle, it really feels like it doesn't matter. The jungle item is so overpowered in terms of the amount of healing you get from just simply using your abilities that you can really just start wherever you want, and the clear is almost negligible in terms of the difference.
Something I want to point out there on that top side before we come back to that point, the Mordekaiser was potentially going to get caught there in that river. The minion was smited by minion smite. Oh,
now he
managed
flash
to get
taunts.
another taunt, and he's going to go down as that spell shield not available, and Blinding Light going to have to beat a hasty retreat out of here. Blue Sea wants to see if he can get something done, but he had to blow his flash earlier on that top side, getting over the wall. Something I thought was interesting was that Minion Taxer used his to try and follow over to get Blue Sea, but then didn't really make anything happen. Zoans, where's he going to go with this one? Wants to see if he can try and kill the Lulu. Blue Sea getting caught between a rock and a hard place. Zoans wants to get it out, but not going to be able to as the Q is going to come down. And the Mordekaiser are going to get on the board. And Shen lucky to get out alive.
Yeah, I feel like if Zeons?
Oh, kill the mid lane.
Nice
Professor
little solo
Hex.
kill from the mid lane. Professor Hex putting Chicken into the ground there, showing what the power of the Anivia can do in a good position, is also building quite a bit of a farm lead. As Chicken, that is the last thing you want to be happening is actually falling there, especially because Professor Hex hasn't even popped Agnivia. It makes it just so oppressive moving forward because you know that you're on the back foot. You have to not only kill him once, but twice. Going back towards our conversation on the bot side, I think that if Zeons just played that a little bit, or Zoans played that a little bit better, was able to sidestep that mace slam by Blue Sea.
It's going to be the needlework.
Third iteration of the ultimate.
Yeah, that was going to be the needlework coming out from...
Oh, this is just so oppressive.
Oh, yeah, Syndra just nowhere to go. That's the second time in as many minutes as he's been killed.
This is going to start... Yeah, this is a big reason why you really don't want to first pick the Syndra in almost any occasion. You really want to wait.
Oh my goodness. Like, we don't even get a chance to digest any of this. Landharper manages to flash forward and get the kill on top of the Jax. Landharper may try to walk his way out of here. Blue Sea's got the passive cover. No flash available for him, so he will be able to pick that up. But it's just a return kill and a consolation prize for the death of the top laner.
100%. Solo kills all the way around on the side of Allergic to objectives. They're really showing where their lane prowess is coming to effect here. So far, they've been beating bot, mid, and jungle. And if you're Blue Sea, you're starting to sweat a bit. You're starting to have to realize that you've got to put the game on your back as the only person that's 2-0 here. Mordekaiser, a person that you do want kills on, is going to be able to change the outcome of the game given a good team fight. But that being said, he's not in a lane. He's not able to affect the lane as much as the laners can themselves. He can only really affect whatever lane he's able to go to, you know? So it's a little bit of a difficult situation if you're on the side of RGB, and ultimately what we need to see is some stabilizations coming out from the side of RGB, especially on this bot line.
My one concern right now for Blue Sea is that he's going to be put in a position where he's not going to be able to do the amount of damage that he's going to, I guess, be required in these team fights just because of how ahead these lanes are starting to get. The good news is, though, his minion tax really hasn't been the recipient of any kills either, so he's got a small advantage there, especially when he gets to go to objectives. But, I mean, categorically, like you said, in all of these lanes, the individual players in ATO, they're showing their prowess, getting ahead very well. And I mean, the one I'm most concerned about of any of the matchups is going to be, Ladarper, Grandmaster's Challenge manages to give him that play win that he needed to get that in order to come back even in that lane. Jackson, if you're really good about that trade.
Yeah, Smallest Pig demonstrating that he has a bit of the knowledge himself, is able to knowledge gap that top laner, gets himself a nice little solo kill, and that feels great as the Jax in this situation. Is he going to take a tower shot? No, surely not.
No, Chicken, meanwhile, getting interfered with in that mid lane, is down a significant amount of CS and is just otherwise being bullied by Professor Hex on that Anivia. And that was the lane that I was most concerned about right now, as you highlighted. Just picking that Syndra so early on leaves it so open to a tremendous number of counter picks. And, you know, you're not necessarily going to get what you want at every phase of the draft. At some point, you're going to lose somewhere, but you can make it a lot easier for yourself by not just giving over free draft wins to the enemy team. And right now, that's exactly what Professor Hex has right now. He's going to enjoy being able to bully out they want to try and get on top of Lucy. He's going to take Minion Taxer into that Death Realm. Wants to see if he can survive just a little bit longer, but he's got that Conqueror stack. That's going to be the Moonfall. Minion Taxer going to be pulled through. Smallest Pick going to be jumping forward as well. Blue Sea not going to drop Professor Hex, not able to do anything while his jungler was in that Death Realm, and it's going to be a 1-for-0 kill.
Yeah, getting a nice kill back on to Smallest Pig. This is really going to help Jax in this matchup, considering how ahead that Light-Arper was at the earlier part of this game. That being said, I do want to highlight Zones actually ended up sending the Jinx ultimate top to try to pick off Smallest Pig earlier in that fight when he got away with 1 bar of health. Just managed to miss that. That gives a little bit less power into that lane. So Gaston and Binding Light able to push up a little bit farther and able to equalize the CS lead. In fact, Sivir is closing the gold gap and actually has a lead herself.
Yeah. All right, next moves for RGB. You're being gifted some plays, which I think is nice. ATO, they're getting a little too aggressive in that top side jungle on a side that wasn't theirs. Blue Sea obviously will be able to move in to take these Krugs. Now one's gonna get smited for him. Minion Taxer wants to go in. Light-Arper slowly making his way through. Wants to start to stack these kills, and he will in fact do so. The power of that Gwen making itself known. And what should have been Krubs for RGB has now gone over to ATO off a very aggressive pick. Light-Arper's not done. He wants to get Smallest Pig if he can. Just the little snip, snip, snip of the scissors. Not even the label slow, but it doesn't matter. He's got 2 kills. He's 3 and 2 on that Gwen right now, and he's absolutely in control of that top side.
Yeah, Light-Arper really showing us the expertise that he has on this champion. It elects to get the Dark Seal, rather, and it already has 4 stacks on it. That's really showing his confidence and his ability to actually pilot this champion. We really only see that built so early on in times where you're really far ahead. So it's surprising to see that he built this item so early on in a lane that's relatively even. Yeah, that is just so disgusting. And to be honest, that's going to be happening all day. We've got nearly a 30 farm lead in the mid lane, or 20 farm lead rather. I'm telling you right now, I've been in these situations at Syndra. It is god awful. Okay, you've got him.
Yeah, the Ignivia is going to go down here. There's no possible way he's going to live.
Yeah, no Shen ult. Yeah.
Surprised that it wasn't.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that's what you need, and that's how you slowly get your way back into this game. I mean, it is still fairly even. Blue Sea's making his presence felt across the map. He's going to try and start up this dragon. Shouldn't be too much of a response from anybody. Diana, not really going to have an easy time making her way near, although there's a possibility they can start to contest his zones and shoot. What can they do? The dragon getting low, about a 1500 health, manages to steal
Minion Taxer!
Minion Taxer. He's going to go into the Death Realm and try and land a multi-person ultimate, but it's not going to happen. Against the dragon, he dies, but unfortunately for ATO, he's the only one that does.
Yeah, and for the first time this game, despite the Dragon Steel, which is just an awesome job by Minion Taxer, for the first time this game, Gaston's Blue Fire Animal is back in the lead, rather, at, it's only 100 gold. So, it's relatively even, but they were behind before this point.
Yep. That being said, the Blue Sea, Smallest Pig, he's just going to go down. Light-Arper is absolutely dangerous, even though he has the early completion on that Mage Blade. It's just not going to be enough right now. Light-Arper will be able to walk underneath the turret. As Blue Sea wants to try and retaliate, but not going to be given the chance to do so. I mean, the good news is for RGB, though, is like even despite the fact that they lost that dragon, they do have Mordekaiser at a really strong point. But the thing that I think we isolated earlier is that you can't just have Mordekaiser be the only form of damage and be the only way for you to win the game, because he's super counterable if you could just delete him on the face of the planet before a fight starts, or if you could just start to kind of itemize around him. And so for RGB, I want to see them start to get a little bit more threat from some of the other members here on this team. I want them to get a little bit more priority. That way, the burden of carrying the game is not solely on the Mordekaiser's shoulders.
100%. As Light-Arper continues to get these kills, this Dark Seal is going to get stronger and stronger fast. Forced to use Flash. Blue Sea is getting a lot of advantages around the map. You would think that from a jungler that has relatively low mobility, that he would not be infecting these lanes the way he is, but he seems to be everywhere where he needs to be.
A little bit of everything, all of the time. Mordekaiser's everywhere, all of the time. Apathy is a tragedy and boredom is a crime, and Blue Sea does not want to be bored at all in this lane. Professor X should just be able to walk out of here, has the ult to cover him, and can always throw up the wall. And Shoop, Minion Taxer, they're coming here just to provide a little bit of support. So we're starting to see multiple members of both teams starting to roam around. And we're going to get to the point where they're going to start breaking out of these lanes. 13-minute. The gold virtually even between both of these teams. However, 2 dragons to the good for the side of ATO. It's going to feel really nice for them. And ultimately, I think for ATO, you're happy to continue passively scaling because you know that you're going to have as much late game priority as RGB will. And, RGB, same thing. Like, you're happy to just let Sivir farm in that bot side and get strong.
100%.
Smallest Pig should
You're
be
super
dead here. At Arper.
I think There's a chance, but if he gets taunted, it's over.
He's not going to
He
be able
didn't
to
get
go
taunted, but he
much
missed the
farther.
ultimate.
He is going to land a counter-strike. Maybe able to walk out of here. Shoop can try to get forward. So I think the only reason he lived there is because they decided not to follow under, but they could just kill him underneath this turret. He will have counter-strike available, so he will need to back all the way off the turret, though, unless he wants
100%.
to die.
Yeah, 100%. I think the only reason, like you said, he was able to dodge that taunt, and because of that, he wasn't going to fall there.
Zoans, they're going to pull out that Stand United, so now this dive's going to have to be called off, as Lucy not going to be able to get anyone underneath the turret. I think if that had gone just a little bit south, or Stand United flash forward from Minion Taxer. Yeah, this Syndra just not having a good game. Dies underneath the turret in the mid lane. They're going to be happy to start stealing the farms away. And yeah, Minion Taxer, he's going to go up there and start stealing camps, but Lucy wants to back around here. Shoop, trying to buy a little bit of space. Is going to knock Professor Hex into... Oh, did manage to get him into the Death Realm. Interesting.
Yeah, got him in the Death Realm, but it's not really going to amount to much. Professor Hex selecting...
No, he didn't get him in there.
Oh, he didn't?
No, he didn't. That's why I was curious. I'm not sure how he wasn't able to get the Death Realm off. It must have been a point-blank stun long enough for Professor Hex to flash away.
Sure. Something that I'm curious to see, we will not see it. There is a build for Anivia. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It's like a speedy build where you actually go, the movement speed boots into, what's the item called? It gives you movement speed and armor.
Oh, are you talking about the bagpipes or?
Not the bagpipes, although that would be hilarious.
Oh, nice counter strike. But Shoop still has the damage, kills him right through it. That's done not long enough to get Lydarper from getting him down. Gaston wants to try and trade for something, but not going to be able to do so. Minion Taxer and Shoop, they'll just look to back here as the ricocheting blades will momentarily stop the back. Zoans doesn't want to leave here. They don't want to give any more turret plates, or they don't want to risk this turret going down.
Yeah, I think Zones is going to go ahead and stay behind just to wave clear and ensure that there's no more plates gone into the hands of Gaston for no reason. I was referring to Deadman's Plate. So there's this build that Anivia players do where they go Swifty Boots into Deadman's Plate, and you never auto-attack. The idea is you never auto-attack, so you never proc Deadman's Plate. And because of that, you're so quick and speedy on the battlefield, kind of placing down your ultimate and just launching in ease over and over again. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see this game, but it is a really interesting combination. I hope to God someone pulls it out sometime later in the series in the Gold Division.
Sure. But so you're never really procking that item.
Exactly, so you just keep the movement speed.
Chicken's dead. You burned Flash and Teleport for nothing, and now you're going to die for it. Minion attacks are dead in the mid lane. Herald going to be coming out as well. Bluesy just wants to see if he can manage to grab somebody in his ultimate, but not going to be able to do so. Momentarily going to get slowed up. Do they want to pick this fight? No. Minion attacks decides, he's going to eject himself right underneath Bluesy and get caught in the
Ejectocito,
Yeah, that was not where he wanted to end up there. A little bit of a misplay there from the ATO jungler, but they're still going to get the mid turret, and they're still going to be happy with the gold that they're getting from that. ATO on a bit of a roll. Harper, looking at Gaston underneath this turret. He's going to get ignited, forced to flash out. Harper needs to leave before he takes too many turret shots. Bluesy is here. Fortunately, has no ultimate, so can't just lock somebody down, and it will be ATO vacating that bot lane.
Yeah, pretty chaotic mid game here. It seems like it's just kind of back and forth. That being said, the side of Allergic to Objectives is really getting the better hand, especially when it comes to the lane state. But RGB immediately responding and going to take a dragon of their own. First dragon of the game, and they're going to deny Dragon Point.
Good news for Bluesy there was that Minion Taxer was nowhere near in order to land a Crescent Strike and come in there and steal that. Professor Hex needs to be very, very careful here, though. This Jax can and will turn this fight very easily. Remember that just because you do a bunch of damage to him in the beginning doesn't mean that he can't leap on top of you, so don't get too greedy and don't step too far forward. Minion Taxer, he's going to pull the Shin down as well. Gaston's going to pop on the hunt, but it's a flash forward taunt. He's going to go down, and now Blinding Light. He only watch in horror as the double kill goes over to the Diana. That was a split-second call. I think for sure they thought that Shin wouldn't get him, but they misjudged that, and they're both going to be dead in that bot side.
100%, and we're going to see this top tower fall. There's nothing that Smallest Pig can do against this Anivia. If he even tries to step forward, Anivia can land a pretty easy stun into a
jungler.
kill.
And Professor Hex, he's just going to have to make his peace with the fact that he's going to die for this one, so you might as well
Got
get as much
Ignivia.
gold as you can. Yeah, it's not going to matter, though, once Blue Sea pulls him into that ultimate. Oh, did manage to get the stun and the wall. Gets locked into the death realm. Professor Hex wants to survive as long as possible can. Doing a great job sidestepping. Smallest Pig, he might be the next one to come out. Ignivia will surely fall, but Diana's coming. Can they kill Ignivia fast enough? Smallest Pig, he might be just in time to watch the egg get cracked. He gets to one for the trouble. They get the bot lane turret, but it almost seems like it was inevitable that Ignivia was going to die, but it did look close there for a second.
Yeah, Allergic to objectives really coming out ahead in that entire exchange. They're able to get the bot tower and the top tower among another kill, even though it's a 1-for-1 trade. You take that trade any day. We're going to have to wait and see if there is a response to this Ignivia side lane. I really don't feel like there are many champions on the side of RGB that have the ability to actually stop that split push. I mean, eventually, Syndra will get to the point where she can one-shot the Ignivia, even though she has all this health. But if Ignivia even gets one MR item, whether that's a straight-up MR item or just the Banshee's Veil, it's going to be really hard to do that.
I think Banshee's Veil would be a really good item, and I think additionally, like, if you wanted to be even more annoying as Professor Hex on Ignivia, you buy Azonias. Like, it does stop your damage itemization a little bit, but either buying Azonias or Banshees, I think, would be a great investment there, because then you could stall that out even further, make it really, really difficult for anybody to kill you, and you buy time for your teammates to come rally around you. But so interested to see if Professor Hex will choose to do any of that defensive itemization. Pink's coming down, though. On the spot side, what kind of player are they looking for? No objective to take as of right now. To be a couple minutes before Dragon spawns. Professor Hex going to force Blue Sea away from his own blue buff, which of course is never very fun.
Yeah, the Hourglass on Ignivia is a good point, especially against Syndra, because as soon as Syndra stuns you, she usually follows up with a W and then the ultimate. By the time the ultimate comes out, you're actually out of the stun, and so you use Zanya's and you block all of that damage instead of only one ball.
Professor Hex flashing forward, gets the flash out of Chicken. That'll be something they could abuse later, but they don't want to stick around too much because they know that Blue Sea will turn around and ult one of them, and you can only go so far when that happens. And Ignivia at this point, even though with all the health, you really just don't want to be getting ulted by the Mordekaiser if you can avoid it, especially not without eggs. So, but what's crazy to me is that Professor Hex is being allowed to just stay here, and that they're not being more proactive in trying to kill this Ignivia.
Yeah, Ignivia is a pretty oppressive champion in the 1v1, but easy to gank because she's got no mobility. So yeah, I'm surprised just as much as you are. I figured they would send someone down. Even Binding Light would make a huge difference. If you can actually catch Ignivia, to the side and actually polymorph her, it is really easy to actually get on top and destroy this champion. But in the 1v1, it is one of the hardest champs in the game.
Professor Hex, though,
oh my gosh, that is so gross.
Damage, but now has to leave. Is going to get grabbed and locked in the death realm. Whoa, no Ignivia this time, so that means he will just be straight dropping, and that was the punishment that I wanted to see. Knowing that Ignivia is fairly immobile means that it should just be constant gank steroid. You were talking about finding a way to deal with that Ignivia on the side lane. Well, that's how they're going to have to do it. Drawing multiple people there, knocking her down, and making sure that she's not free to farm and knock down turrets.
Yeah, it was a little silly for her to be that pushed up. You've got only one ward, and it's not really giving you much information next to that blue buff. So for her to be pushed that far pushed up without knowing where the jungler was or where anyone really on the entire team is, it just seems a little bit silly to me. I mean, maybe they thought, oh, surely they won't be at the Baron because if they are down here, because if they're down here, we can take Baron. But they weren't even set up to take the Baron in the first place, so...
No Counter-Strike available for Smallest Pig. Missed that one. And talking about being overextended, it is his turn to learn the naughty lesson about what happens if you are way too far forward. The teleport from Professor Hex is going to come to the mid lane as this dragon is about 10 seconds from spawning. Now, very importantly, Blue Sea does have access to the Death Realm, so whoever he chooses to lock in there will be having a not-so-good time. Blinding Light forced to blow the flash as minion attacks are making his way towards this river. And Sivert trying to passively push this mid wave. Want to see if they can get any kind of pressure towards that objective. But RGB right now making the call to instead just kind of vacate this river and deciding that they don't want to push forward for this. So this means the ATO, they're going to be on drag point.
100%. Yeah, Professor Hex, I wonder if there's a flash counter that has been going on, of how many flashes have been expended because of this damn Anivia wall. I mean, it seems like Anivia uses one ability and it's forced out at least like 10 flashes this game. It's incredible. It's so oppressive to deal with an Anivia that has an item advantage or a gold advantage, because it just feels like she's so tanky, and if you try to like walk up to actually do damage to her, half your health bar is gone, even if she lands 0 abilities, right? The ultimate alone is just chunking you down the entire time, and just wait until she gets this completed Leandra's Torment. It's going to feel extremely oppressive.
And then, of course, the Rylai's on top of that in order to make that slow even worse. But then that starts wondering, like, okay, is there going to be any room left for the defensive itemization? So, I mean, there are 3 slots. So you've got the Leandries, and then you've got the Rylai's, so that leaves you 1 more spot for a potential damage item. So you saw that ring slot, so that gives you the ability to build a Zonia's, which I think would be a good investment. So interesting to see how that will begin to shape up over the next several minutes, but a lot of farming to be done before that's actually going to be available.
Yeah, she's got the level 10 Rod of Ages combined with the Seraph's Embrace. This is one of those, timeless combinations that just give you a lot of innate tankiness along with a lot of ability power because of the virtue of having so much mana and health. So, while a defensive item would be very, very helpful for the Anivia, it doesn't seem like she really is trying to prioritize at this point. Professor Hex selecting rather just to get the Leandries. I would assume that it will be followed up either by more Magic Pen or a Rabadon's Death Cap, just to really maximize the amount of damage you can do in fights, especially with your ultimate or stun E combo. Meanwhile, Light Arper getting caught.
Yep, he's going to go down here. He's going to be locked in the Death Realm passively burning, but it's going to be a trade for the Baron on this top side, so you get to knock down the top laner, but you're going to have to sacrifice something. Meanwhile, though, they're going to try and take down a couple mid towers if they can, shove this as hard as they possibly can. That objective is going over to them now. This ping's coming through. They want to see if they can cut off any potential exfil through this bot side jungle. ATO are pinging this.
Yeah, but they're really just trying to take what they can by the fact that they lost that Baron. I mean, if you're on the side of it, allergic to objectives, you're more than happy to have Light Arper die for the Baron take, especially because Light Arper is already about to come off respawn in 10 seconds. So, at the end of the day, if you're on ATO, you're stoked for that outcome, and you're just going to use this Baron to push more objectives.
All right, so seeing the Speedy Pants built there for Shin, I think NKSB is going to try and build like Dead Man's Plate or something like that. One of the points I've actually been thinking about, and I wanted to voice it now, one of the items I really like to see Shu potentially look at building would be a Shirelia's. And the reason that I think of Shirelia's would be great there is because, like, even though it's not great specifically for him, it is great for the team in terms of trying to get in and out. It's not typically an item that, sort of melee style champions try to build it. There's a couple that like it, but I think just Shirelia's would be one of those useful utility items where you can get in and out of fights. You can kind of protect yourself from the Mordekaiser just running straight at you, or if you're trying to finish off fights, especially because Sivir has on the hunt, she can passively speed at the rest of her team to be able to answer that to some degree.
Yeah, and not to mention it gives Zones a bit of a miniature get excited, right? Like, you're able to give him some extra movement speed in these team fights that allows him to dodge a lot of the incoming abilities, possibly even a stun from the Syndra. And at that point, you're just able to launch rockets over the top. And speaking of getting excited, they might take down this tower here soon once the next wave arrives.
They are making the conscious decision to go ahead and send Gaston towards that mid lane to try and knock down the mid lane tower. They are going to send the Diana to answer that, so in the meanwhile, it's going to be a potential void for as Blue Sea.
Another flash to the counter.
Flash out of there, and Zones is going to be temporarily excited. And so they're going to continue this steady siege. Another 50-something seconds of Baron. Gaston managed to flash the lunar call, and so Minion will just slowly pick up the damage and the kill onto the Sivir. And now, if you're RGB, you got to find a way to start to respond to this because you're getting passively one out of your jungle. But a multi-man stun would do it. Smallest Pig trying to see what else he can get done. Grandmaster's Call not killing anybody yet, but Blue Sea, he's got his passive going. They're going to get on top of the Anivia, and that is a huge call to make. It's 3 really quick kills, and the Dragon potentially up for grabs as they start to push out the waves. Huge, huge swipe by RGB.
100%. You are super stoked with that outcome. If you're on their team, if you're on the team of RGB, you are complimenting Chicken for an excellent 2-man stun there, which resulted in a nice follow-up engage by Smallest Pig. They're able to land another 2-man stun on top of that and just land just enough damage to be able to take out both Shen and Professor Hex. Those are 2 huge targets that you need to take out and prep for this dragon.
Yep. However, multiple members of ATO are here, so this isn't necessarily going to be free. And importantly, menu tax is up, so that means that there's always a potential of a smite steal. Dragon going to start to reset. Shin's going to use the Stand United to go ahead and get out here a little bit earlier, but they want to time this right. They want to time these ultimates right, as some of the abilities of the RGB, they will still be off cooldown. Shoop needs to position to make sure, but it's another multi-man stun from the Syndra. Now Smallest Pig, what else can he get done? This Dragon is going to get slain in the interim. It's already one dead. Ladarper trying to get took the backline, not able to do it. The Blue Sea momentarily going to get stunned. Zone's just trying to put in the damage from this Jinx, but not able to do so, as Blue Sea has turned himself into an Eldritch God and is starting to put in the damage into Professor Hex. Shoop, the next to go down. It's 5 dead. Everybody on RGB still alive except for Smallest Pig, and now they can start to knock down these turrets. A huge team fight win for RGB.
Yeah, a nice little 2,500 gold swing, it seems like, for the side of RGB. They're able to have a lead now in the game for the first time in quite a while. Yeah, it just seems like a little bit of an overstep by the side of Allergic to Objectives, rather, trying to get a little bit better positioning. They ended up getting 2-man stunned by the Syndra ultimate, the second of the game for Chicken, followed by an excellent follow-up from Smallest Pig. And yeah, as soon as this fight starts, it seems like it ends is once your front line is kind of fallen down, once Minion Taxer and Light Harper are killed off, and Shen doesn't really get any meaningful taunts, you're as good as dead in that team fight.
Yeah, and the multi-man stun's doing a lot of work here. That's twice in a row that we've seen Chicken been able to do that and setting up his team for success. And you know, as they're not out of the woods yet, RGB, they're starting to get a larger gold lead, but I still think that some of the tempo for ATO is still available there. And obviously, RGB has been on the back foot for a little while now, but they've started to collect a lot of this standing gold, and now they have the opportunity to start winning big team fights. And as long as they keep executing the way they have, it's going to be a lot easier. And for ATO, I think the next big thing that you need to do is you need to start to calm down a little bit, try and find a way to finish off this Dragon stacking, and potentially look for some picks of your own. Stop getting involved and embroiled in these massive team fights where you're super subject to getting stunned and knocked up, and allowing Blue Sea and others to start picking off your squishier members.
100%. Minion Taxer's job becomes a whole lot harder now, right? He's on this assassin-style pick. But with the Mountain Soul stacking that's going on the side of RGB, it's going to get harder for him to actually assassinate the backline carries. Not only that, but you've got Lulu, right? So Lulu is going to be ulting either the Sivir or the Syndra and preventing all that damage from coming through. So then at this point, it's like, well, we really don't have much of a front line. It's just really Shen. And they've got a Mordekaiser. So Mordekaiser siphons out the front line and kills him by himself, comes back even stronger, and just runs you down.
Well put. ATO, you've given yourself an immense challenge to try and execute on the composition of this late game state. This is where you want it to be. And so now you've got to find a way to put the pieces together and start to try and close out this game. But the same thing for RGB, just because they have the lead does not mean that they will continue to hold it. And I think to the earlier point you made, I think that RGB have found a way to start answering Professor Hex in this bot lane and making sure that he's not able to push as far as he wants to. This Anivia, that freedom that it had earlier, not so available now. And Professor Hex needs to be very careful how he wants to approach this Jinx. He is doing a really good job in landing that damage, but it only takes one leap. I say that, though, doing a really good job to consistently land that damage, forcing this Jax out of the lane. Professor Hex still incredibly dangerous on this Anivia.
100%, yeah. And the 1v1 matchup, he'll pretty much always win, especially if there's no flash on the side of the player that's actually answering him. However, he's very, very immobile, and that's where you actually can take advantage of him. So I would like to see if whether that's Binding Light or Blue Sea starts making a little bit more passes towards that bot side. Right now you can't because Baron's up, right? But eventually it will get to the point where they need to stop Professor Hex somehow, and he's going right back to it, immediately pushing that bot side.
There's a world in which ATO just makes the decision to go ahead and try and contest around Baron, but not commit to trying taking it, and then allow Professor Hex to just start to knock down structures, because RGB doesn't really have a good way to disengage in a fully embroiled team fight unless it's just like straight up killing people. And so as long as they keep providing Professor Hex time, he's going to continue to just slowly be a threat there. But the big thing that we've been pointing out is Professor Hex needs to be careful about the positioning and pushing up way too far, because if he does and it gets wrapped around on, there's really nothing that he can do unless there's people waiting. ATO pinging on the Baron, though. They know that Professor Hex is... Yeah, they know that he's pulling multiple people, and so RGB, this is kind of like a helpless position to be in because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You have to respond to the Anivia. You want to try and get something done. They're going to potentially slow him. This is the commit. Professor Hex going into the brush. All he needs to do is stall. All he's trying to do is buy time. As long as he gets
look at that damage.
Yeah, I mean, even that alone is going to be enough. He's going to be able to potentially kill Smallest Pig, and in fact does it. That's going to make it so much easier for them to get the Baron. Professor Hex managed to get the Stand United from the Shin. Going to go in that Golden Stasis. That's what we talked about. That Zoni is doing so much work. He's going to go into the Resurrection, but it's not enough. Meanwhile, though, RGB, they're contesting on that Baron.
They wipe
Professor
him.
Hex gets down. Him. Wow, they're actually going to win this. On this call, a split call that they were forced to answer to, they win at Baron, they win at the bot side. Yes, they lose at Jax, but they've won everything else. And Shoop, not long for this world. Boosie wants to try and run him down. Is going to be able to do so. Is that fact what you gave us yesterday? The Mace Head does quite a bit. And Shoop, he will manage to live, but he will be the only one to do so. He's going to watch his base fall into tatters. Amazing outplay by RGB and a call that looked like it was about to go ATO's way.
Yeah, the camera wasn't there at the time, but what I imagine had to have happened, and I can revert it and look at it myself, but I would imagine what happened is you've got the 4v3 in the top side, right? Because we see that Blue Sea and Smallest Pig both elected to go to the bot side to stop Professor Hex. At that point, it is a 4v3. You would expect that ATO would win that fight, but what ends up happening is Shen is forced to ult onto Professor Hex to stop that potential gank from happening and try to save the Anivia. But in the interim, you've got Chicken, Gaston, and Binding Light actually end up winning the 3v3 against Light Opera, Minion Taxer, and Jinx, Zones rather, and because of that 3v3 win, they end up taking the Baron.
Yeah. Winning all across the board for RGB. They're coming out with just about every objective they would want, including the ability to even up on the drags, which is great for them, and Mountain Soul, potentially for them, which would be fantastic. It would definitely help them with some of the passive poking. I'm sure Littlest Pig, Smallest Pig would like the opportunity to start to negate some of that damage, but Professor Hex still staying towards the spot side, wants to push these waves out, will need to eventually make his way towards the mid lane. Just because the Baron powered minions, he is their best version of wave clear. His inhibitor for sure going to be going down, but what else can RGB get while they're hanging around the base?
Yeah, I think they're only going to be able to get that one inhibitor, and then they're going to have to probably back off. They didn't spread around the Baron like they probably should have to try to get multiple pushing lanes.
Well,
that being said, they don't have a lot of a disengage, so it's kind of dangerous for them to split in the first place.
Sure. Well, and the waves weren't in a great spot either, so they would have had to have manually reset those after they got the Baron, which they just didn't do. But that's, I mean, you were talking about earlier, that's the little homework things that you have to do. You got to go, run through the checklist of things you're supposed to do when you got the Baron. And one of them, as soon as you get Baron, is sending people out to the 3 side lanes. Even if you converge later after it gets to the midpoint, you want to push those waves to the midpoint and then look to congregate. That way you have some sort of pressure and you can revert to one of those lanes after, the wave gets cleared out in the mid lane. So I don't like the idea that teams continue to try and group men and force that way. I think that robs you a lot of utility and robs you of the ability to force even more effectively once you have a Baron. They're going to have about 25 more seconds, so this essentially will just be the last push here, and they're not going to get much else.
Shout out to Smallest Pig building the Serpent's Fang on the Jax. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of shields that are triggered on the side of allergic to objectives. You've got the Seraph's Embrace shield. You've got the shield given to you by Minion Taxer, his W shield that procs after doing enough damage. And I guess the Shen shield as well from his ultimate, but it seems a little weird.
Minion Taxer, this is not where you want to be. Locked in the Death Realm. Trying to land the ultimate just to buy a little bit of time, but that's not going to be enough. Smallest Pig over the wall. RGB, they want to put the final touches on this game. Smallest Pig managing to live for now, but will eventually fall over. Lyodarp are going to be the one to pick that up. And now RGB going to make a retreat from the base. They do have the super minions pushing, but not the health bars or the summoner abilities to push that forward. Good defense of the base so far for ATO, but they can't really leave too far without losing much more.
Yeah, top for jungle trade there. Not too big of a deal on the side of allergic to objectives, simply because the dragon isn't up for another 2 minutes, so he'll be up in time for that, no problem. Otherwise, just a little bit of a trade there, a little bit of a damage trade, and not many... Oh, Smallest Pig did burn it Ignite. Not that that's really too big of a deal, and he'll have Flash up for the next fight as well.
Yeah. I want to point out something that we noticed the last time that we saw Diana played earlier in that series between Psychosis and... Psychosis... why am I blanking on the team name now? Psychosis and
Gwendolyn Challenger or Big Pythons?
Big Pythons. Well, when we saw that Diana earlier, we noticed the same thing that we're starting to see now, which is that she's starting to fall off. That her damage is not as threatening, and that's really as scary as she's going to be. Almost, I mean, basically a fully complete build. So very little else that she's going to be able to do other than just consistently land the ultimates. But every time she's tried, at least recently, she's been stopped. So the ATO, they're going to have to find another angle to utilize that champion, but they need to be more effective in trying to get on top of Gaston, but very difficult with the protection that Sivir has. And Chicken, I think, still doing a great job at setting up these team fights for RGB. So it's really going to come down to precise execution for the ATO. But I think it's just, I'm not going to say the game's over, but I think it's just really difficult. Like, Professor Hex has more or less been nullified. Like, he's not able to push that wave out super effectively without just getting completely dove, because it always seems to be that Blue Sea and Smallest Pig is there. And so they got to find another way to try and, get a fight in a narrow corridor where it's easier for them to win.
100%. I think at a certain point, the way that you play against RGB is that you actually have Minion Taxer hover behind Professor Hex and bait out a 1v1 or 2v1. Make them think that Professor Hex is by his lonesome. In reality, Minion Tax is waiting in the rafters, and he's able to get an advantage in that way. Otherwise, we're just going to see the dragon fight here.
Lucy, though, that damage does hurt. He's potentially taunted. They want to try and fully ult him. Minion attacks are going to go into that ultimate, but that's not exactly what they wanted. Shupa locked into the death realm with Lucy. Will be surely the next to fall, but meanwhile, he's going to go legendary. It's kills all across the board. A fight that ATO picked is going against them. Professor Hex did so much to try and keep them in this game, but at the end, it's just not really going to matter. Smallest pick, he's going to land the counter-strike. Professor Hex, he's just going to go into the stasis to deny the immediate kill, but he will eventually fall, and that should be the final stroke that they need at RGB. They're going to run this down with those minion waves into that into the middle, and then Chicken teleporting to the top side. Game 1 looks like it's going to go to RGB.
Yeah, it's going to go to RGB for this game 1. An excellent back-and-forth game here. It really looked like Allergic to Objectives had the advantage they needed going into the middle and end game. I mean, we saw Professor Hex with such a huge lead on this Nivea. It just didn't really seem like it amounted to much once we got into the team fights.
Absolutely. Kane, Pompey, Aphelios hitting the ban board. RGB keeping that Aphelios ban fairly consistent so far, at least into this second draft. Allergic to Objectives, they want to take away the Yunara. We saw that be fairly effective in a series early today. I think Yunara is one of the most slept on ADCs. I think you've given the right support, she can absolutely take over a game. And speaking of the proper supports, Malphite also going to be taken off the board. They do not want RGB getting their hands on that. So draft bio, it's all about which lane you want to try and win through. And I think for ATO, I think definitely they've shown that they want to win through their mid lane. They want to win through top side wherever possible, whereas RGB, they want to win through jungle and bot side. So I think for them, it's all about trying to make those two things happen. But how you get there is always interesting. As RGB, they're going to lock into Lux. We saw a fairly dominant Lux game earlier today. Psychosis, they had a lot of fun with that. We saw people just getting deleted left, right, and center. If you are within visible range of Lux, you are not safe.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to take the Caitlyn away immediately just to prevent the Caitlyn Lux combo lane from being picked by the side of RGB. I would imagine we will see it, because here's the thing with the Lux, you can flex it bot or mid, but if you pick it mid, it can be countered easily, like with things like the Pantheon. Pantheon hops on Lux and just absolutely destroys her. And Yone is also good against the Lux. So this can be very dangerous. Lux has to play, if this is a mid Lux, you have to play in a way where you're kind of just maxing your E and sticking as far away back from the wave as possible. It's kind of like how we talked about the Malzahar versus Yasuo matchups should go, where you're basically just using your dots and your abilities to clear wave, but you're never really getting into a position where you should be using your abilities on the enemy champions. Meanwhile, Darius picked up for the top side. This is a spicy pick that we have not seen this tournament.
Yeah, it's been fairly banned out from just about every team consistently through all these series. And I like this Darius pick for a couple reasons. Number one, it's just a great top lane pick, gives you a lot of abilities. But number two, it threatens this Yone to come up there. So I think for Allergic Objectives, that Yone is a flex because he can go in top or mid. But with Darius up there, you don't want Yone up there trying to duel this Darius. It's just not a winning fight. Darius is more than happy to sit there and trade with the Yone. Just has that passive regeneration and also just does a tremendous amount of damage, plus the execute. So that's not a winning matchup for Yone. And so I think for Allergic Objectives, essentially what's happened is, okay, you've picked this Yone, you're not going to have to go mid lane in it with it unless you were supremely confident that in top side you can win with it. And so that means that blue RGB, they don't even have to commit to the Lux being in the mid lane either. They can go with the Caitlyn, like you talked about, have that poke lane to the bot side and look to reserve something else for mid picks 4 and 5.
We don't too often see a top mid pick one after the other, pick 1, pick 2. That is very rare, right? Like, so feasibly, Pantheon is probably in the jungle. That being said, Pantheon does match pretty well into the Darius, to the point where if played correctly, Pantheon can just run him over and over again. The problem is that I don't think that you necessarily want Yone into Lux that often. It can be a winning matchup, but if you just E-stack and play really defensively, you can win it. That being said, I think we're going to see Lux and Caitlyn in the bot side. It's just one of those signature picks that you normally see. I would...
Go ahead.
I would like to see the pivot of... I truly believe what happened here is they picked Pantheon for the jungle, right? That's where they initially wanted it to go, and
that due to your band supports that.
Yeah, and so I think they wanted Pantheon in the jungle, and they wanted Yone as a flex pick to either top or mid, depending on whatever RGB selects. Now that they've shown the Darius, I really hope that they're discussing the possibility of pivoting Pantheon towards the top side and Yone towards the middle. If they do that, however, it is really risky for Yone because obviously you can still counterpick it mid. Not only that, but you're forcing yourself into an AP jungler in order to make up for all of the lack of AP that you already have in your team comp.
Yeah. Victor Vlad protects that further Lux going mid thing as well. Tristan and Nautilus could be a fairly safe pair of hands in the bot side for Allergic to Objectives. But I think I agree with the assessment. The one thing I'm worried about, though, is if you're trying to stick Pantheon towards that top lane, you do have the possibility to lose out in some of those 1v1s. And most importantly, some of the bans that they're throwing in addition to try and protect that Pantheon, I think, by denying the Udyr and take away Cho'Gath, I think makes things interesting. Mel, though, going to be the pick there in the mid lane for RGB, which means that we should be seeing the jungle come out. RGB, they have a number of great champions that they can pick to go in that jungle. They can pick anything like the Skarner. They can pick the Volibear. Graves also still available.
Yone's in a hard position here. Yone hardcore loses the matchup against Mel, and I'm pretty certain also loses the matchup into Darius.
Nasus jungle.
So yeah, Yone will be elected into this mid lane. Oh no, they picked Zerath, so it'll be a Yone versus Darius top. Yep. I'm fairly certain Darius wins that matchup. Maybe I'm wrong. You were talking about with Nautilus, yeah, a much stronger, more dependable support to play with. You really have to pilot the Lux Caitlyn lane effectively. You have to make sure that you're punishing Shoop or zones whenever they miss position. If Shoop misses his anchor, the dredge line, you immediately need to be able to punish that by landing some kind of binding. And if they land the bindings, if Binding Light lands the bindings, okay, I'm starting to understand what's going on here. You will see massive damage coming out from Gaston because he's immediately going to be following it up with a trap headshot.
Yeah, and definitely it's one of those things in the lane. I think we've all been in that moment in solo queue where you're playing that melee support, and it's like, go ahead and poke me. It's all fun and games, but the minute I land my ability, you're going to be real sad because my damage and my ability to limit you is way more effective. You can passively damage me from afar, but when it comes time to get close and it comes time to make some of these these more important plays, I feel like melee supports, that's just where they kind of reign supreme. They lose out a little bit in lane, but they sacrifice that as long as they don't go too far down. They sacrifice that for the opportunity to win in big team fights later.
Yeah, I think Shoop will have a lot more opportunities to roam on this champion, especially if he tries to go towards the mid lane, assuming Chicken uses his reflect early. Oh, a nice reflect used. Or not reflect, rather,
no,
but
he just used
the
Q. Yeah, he used the Q stun.
So Like I was saying, Shoop will have more roaming opportunities than Binding Light in this matchup, especially against the Xerath, who's relatively immobile. You know, when you play against the Xerath, it's one of those things that you want to see is your jungler and your support coming up and constantly ganking this guy. It's Xerath's biggest weakness, right? He's got no mobility built into his kit, so you have to punish it somehow.
Sure. And the thing that we didn't address is that it wasn't, in fact, the Darius top lane. It's the Nasus slowly scaling into that Yone. So interesting to see how that matchup's going to go, because in my opinion the Darius would have been a much better pick there, just because that's a dominant lane for Darius, but it looks like RGB seeing something else, or they have a different idea of how they want to play that. I think Blue Sea also on that Darius, kind of a similar thing with that Mordekaiser, which is, you know, we kind of came in with the expectation that, well, he shouldn't have a little bit more of a difficult time ganking with the Mordekaiser, just because of how the champion has to roam through. So I imagine we'll kind of be in the same state with his Darius, where it's like, well, it shouldn't be able to gank very well, but also just him running around was threatening so many champions that he got so many abilities out, so many summoners out, like Flash. And I think really, if you're talking about the Pantheon, his ability to go across the map, he will always be more mobile than the Darius. But in the 1v1 fighting, there's no way that the Pantheon beats the Darius in the jungle, I think.
Yeah. So here's something that, you know, is good to think about. Smallest pick on this Nasus.
Oh.
The Wither will do
There's
a
that binding.
massive. That is so much damage. That's so disgusting.
That was the binding you were talking about. He missed the dredge line, or just got caught standing somewhere he shouldn't have and gets punished for it. A lot of stuff happening across the lane. Smallest pig. He's going to get exhausted.
Withered. He's not going to kill him.
Mel's going to get the first blood in that top side, though, but is immediately going to be traded back onto the Pantheon. Darius is just going to make his way to get another Scuttlecrab. He already has the first one, and we'll take the second one. Pantheon spotted in his own jungle. 1-for-1 trade. In the end, the gold stays fairly even. But first blood going to RGB.
Yeah. The more that I think about the Nasus into the Yone, the more it does kind of make sense to me by virtue of Wither. As soon as you see Light Arper use his Shadow clone and dive in like he is right now, you just kind of wither him, and the damage is mitigated almost completely. He's not able to. Not only can he not get on top of you to actually keep auto attacking and applying those stacks that eventually detonate, but his movement speed. So his movement speed is decreased, but also his attack speed is increased. So even if he's on top of you, he does minimal damage. So it does make sense to me. It just seems like it might be a little bit hard for Nasus to actually secure last hits, because Yone will probably eventually be just hitting him with the Q nonstop. But I do see a world where Nasus just does get ahead very quickly, especially once he gets an item or two.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I think it's one of those things that, too, like, Nasus passive is just going to be stronger than Yone towards the late game. Yes, Yone does quite a bit of damage, but, you know, once he reaches third, fourth item, he's really not that threatening versus, you know, smallest pig on that Nasus just has that pseudo-infinite scaling and will just, you know, continually be a problem. And otherwise, in the lane, Chicken having a much easier time in this lane than he did the last one. Last time he had died a couple times fairly early on. It was not having a good day, but definitely having much more success against the Xerath this time. Already 1-1, has a little bit of a CS lead, consistently pushing Professor Hex in. And so I think just happy with the state of the game right now.
Yeah, 100%. I think Professor Hex needs to play this a little bit more safe. He needs to just utilize his range to effectively bully Chicken out of lane. And right now, he's kind of falling into Chicken's hand. He's been hit by the snare a few times, which eventually resulted in his death we saw minutes ago. Meanwhile, on this top side, Light Arper trying to force Smallest Pig off this wave. He's going to be able to do this for a little bit until Smallest Pig can get some armor built into his kit.
Yeah. Right now, though, that's going to hurt, just being denied away from some of the gold and some of the experience. And he has to be careful, because Yone is going to get reached level 6 before he will, and so he'll be able to fully engage with that ult. Is that Fate Unsealed? That's going to be the ult channeled, and Chicken going to drop down there in the mid lane, so just a 1-for-1 trade. Well, I say 1-for-1. It's finally evening up there. Ooh, nice flash. That's going to be ultimate that we were talking about. He tried to engage on Smallest Pig and committed the ultimate to do it, but doesn't come away with it. And so at least won't have that ability for a little while.
Yeah. Professor Hex doing an awesome job playing to the advantage of the Xerath, making sure that he lands a lot of that poke damage. Oh yeah, meanwhile, Zone's taking some damage from Binding Light here on this Lux.
All right, who wants to make the first play? Yeah, Shoop just not having a lot of success in landing those dredge lines. He's going to get momentarily stunned up. If they're going to get trapped, and in fact they do, slowly starting to is forced to flash out. Shoop getting bullied. Yeah, this is what we were talking about. It's all fun and games until or maybe it's just maybe I just get poked and maybe I leave now. And Shoop, yeah, definitely not having a good time, but they're just going to go ahead and get the drag RGB. Once again, showing that they want to get that drag priority going. Mid-Arper, flash forward, but it's going to be the Ghost expended by Smallest Pig. He's really not under any threat right now. No mana, though, so he can't look to trade.
Yeah, so Binding Light really showing where he gets his name from, showing us that he's able to land those binds, no problem. Shoop consistently falling and having to burn his flash just to avoid dying there to Gaston's damage over the top. Yeah, they're just showing us why this lane is just so easy to execute and does so much damage in the laning phase itself. And the only good news on the side of Allergic to Objectives is that they didn't fall to it.
Yeah, ATO, they're looking potentially to get this Pantheon involved. Once he starts to complete some more of his itemization, and once they can find some people that are a little bit overextended. But credit where credit's due, RGB doing a really good job in making sure that they're not getting, they're not overly extending to open that up. The only one I would say that's not doing a good job of that is Smallest Pig, and in fact is opening himself up for a gank kind of imminently now if he's not careful, and doesn't really have a way to get away from that either because he doesn't have Flash or Ghost. The Wither will only help him with one person. And so he needs to be cognizant of that this is only a 1v1 on paper. It could quickly become a 2v1. Land Arper missing the dash, manages to get the Q, but not much more than that.
Yeah, you almost... Here's the thing. There's not really, very, very fantastic lanes for Minion Taxer to actually gank with his ultimate.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if he goes top, Smallest Pig pretty much just withers either the Pantheon or Light Arper and then just walks away with his ultimate.
Well, but see, that was my point just now, though. I mean, I see that. I think he needs to be careful because even if he withers, whichever one he doesn't wither will get him. Even if he activates Stealth, I think just the damage long enough, they'll be able to knock him down. Especially if the Pantheon can get the leap and the stun. As Professor Hex, though, going to be forced to flash out. The ultimate going to come out from Chicken, but ultimately he's going to be able to walk away. Did get the flash, though. Darius, no kills just yet. But I mean, I agree to your point of it is very difficult for most of these other lanes for Minion to actually get involved. So really, you're kind of waiting for things to open up where it's less about the lane assignments and more people team fighting. But I am surprised that he's not being a little bit more proactive. Blue Sea, as long as he's allowed to just sort of, oh, that was the ult that we were looking at, though. Plenty of damage. The stun not going to hold him underneath the tower for very long, so he's getting on the board. The minute I said he didn't have a kill, he went and got one. Well, he did.
That's the lane you want to gank. You want to be ganking Chicken a lot with Professor Hex. Even if you don't kill him, Professor Hex has the ultimate available to do the remaining amount of damage that's needed. Meanwhile, we've got a combo coming out from Shoot, but he's going to be able to flash out.
Yeah, Gaston got underneath the turret. That should just be the end of this fight. He is going to be rooted up momentarily. Binding Light, though, is going to land that trap on top of Minion Tax. Zareth is here. They want to see if they can ban a little bit more poke, but that should just be the end of this one. Meanwhile, though, Blue Sea on the backside of this, he's going to get one. Uh-oh, that's not what you wanted. That's a double kill that Darius using the execution, and now he's going to be on the board. Always deceptive of where that Darius is going to be. He's going to get rewarded for it. And RGB, again, not much of a gold lead. Land Arper doesn't want to necessarily transfer underneath the tower. But yeah, great response and a little bit of an overcommit for ATO on that bot side.
Yeah, those kills going over to Blue Sea is the last thing you want to see on the side of that Darius. I mean, he's going to be able to turn that into a massive lead in the jungle.
I want to see this bot lane has been going fairly well for RGB, but obviously they're kind of low right now, so not really enjoying that. An observation that I made earlier that I think is kind of proving even more true is I think RGB has definitely made the decision that they don't want to play through Chicken. They've left him on an island kind of in both games, other than just passively walking through the lanes to see if they can set up kills, but they've been, I think, mostly happy to just kind of deprioritize him in draft and just get him something that's theoretically safe to play on, and then just look to play elsewhere around the map, because it definitely seems like they want to play through bot lane or top for RGB.
Yeah, so. No. I've been just a heads up for all of the viewers watching. I think we've been referring to Binding Light as it is in fact a girl, and she is piloting this champion very well in this bot lane combined with Gaston. Back to the mid lane. Meanwhile, Professor Hex doing the damage necessary to keep Chicken on the back foot. That is what Zareth is designed to do in this matchup. It is a very, very good matchup for the Zareth. One of the few matchups that will punish Mel very well. You know, you think about Mel, and it's like this very, very long range champion that's quite oppressive. Well, the way you beat it is with longer range, and that's what Zareth brings to the table.
Longer range and even more oppression.
Definitely. Yeah, the lack of mobility doesn't necessarily matter if you can't even land your snare because he's too far away from you.
Something that I want to see happen, and something I've been noticing for a while, Smallest Pig has really not been given the opportunity to get as many stacks as he would like. He's been zoned very heavily off this wave. It is about a 20 CS difference. I would like to see Blue Sea and maybe Chicken potentially try and make a dive on top of Ladarper in this top lane, just so that way you can give the Nasus a little bit more of an opportunity to start to stack. He is going to pop the ultimate, though, force Ladarper out. Is going to commit the ultimate, but does he have the damage to finish this off? As a Smallest Pig, he's going to push that Q down. It's going to be a trade for dragging the top side, but yep, here comes Blue Sea. This is exactly what I wanted to see. He's just going to walk in, throw a Q, and get the kill. Didn't even need to commit the ultimate, and now Smallest Pig, he's going to have plenty of time with that top lane turret, going to get some of those plates, get that extra money. Did a really good job to get Ladarper low. Oh, great pick. Smallest Pig, can he get out of this? He's got the ghost, not going to get slowed though. Meanwhile,
Blue Sea.
Professor Hex gets caught out. Blue Sea found where he was standing, pops the rank emotes on him. Great response, honestly, for Blue Sea to go look for that. And also, great prediction for Smallest Pig. Knew that he was going to go try and get targeted underneath the tower, so immediately flashes out and then just runs towards the brush. Very lucky that he didn't get hit with more of those Xerath ult shots, because if he had, that probably goes a little bit differently. Picking here, who's fighting who's doing what. Ladarper, you are not going to make it to the start. Oh, doesn't get grabbed. Smallest Pig, he's going to land the Wither. Minion attacks her. He already committed the ultimate. Damage. They're going to need more people, and instead, RGB is going to go ahead and call this off. They got what they wanted. They got the flash out of Ladarper, and they could just look to exfil through this. If Ladarper had been grabbed there, that is absolutely kill going down.
Yeah, 100%. And Blue Sea, the itemization he's opting for is movement speed. He is trying to get around this map as quickly as possible. I know that the Yanu's Ghostblade does offer a lot of damage to Darius, and with his kit, Armor Pen is actually very, very good, especially against squishy targets who aren't building armor naturally. You start to just end up doing true damage.
Well, especially against Pantheon.
Especially against Pantheon. You start doing true damage with your Q, it is disgusting. We saw it just now.
Yep.
Yeah, Ladarper's dead and Blue Sea's back.
This is so impressive. This is exactly what we saw, and I'm so glad that he donated that over to Nasus. That's just, it's nice as the Nasus to get a little bit of kill. But in the meantime, though, ATO, they're trying to get aggressive somewhere. They want to trade, see if they can trade for something in the mid lane. As Professor Hex has just been bullying Chicken all game long. But massive respect to Chicken, though. He has been doing a really, really good job of making sure that he stays farmed. So happy to see that.
100%. Super stoked to see it. They're playing excellently right now. Blue Sea's doing exactly what he needs to do here. Farming up a Storm. He's 24 farm above.
Same thing like with the Mordekaiser.
Yeah, he's above farm, and he's influencing the entire map on a champion that has no global. Right? Like, he's just where he needs to be when he needs to be there.
Ooh,
this is so
nice
cool.
flash. He's going to grab him, plus the Q. This is the execute coming through. Professor Hex, nothing he could do. Massive flash over to avoid that stun. If he gets that stun off, presumably he lives there. We were just talking about him influencing the whole map. He is not playing a mobile chip. He's running top lane. He wants a little bit more if he can get it. Ladarper has no flash. Yeah, there's nothing to do. Herald's going to be spawning here in a couple seconds, so he's just going to turn and get that one. And it's crazy how Blue Sea on... Oh, hold on, we got to fight down the bot. Shoop going to land the full combination. Gaston got a 90 caliber net now. Gets the stun underneath the tower. Shoop will be surely the next to fall. Ultimate comes down. The hook as well. And oh no, Zones tries to follow. Gets exhausted. Double kill for Gaston on the bot side. And meanwhile on the top lane, Smallest Pig bullying. Oh, what can this Pantheon do?
They're going to kill him too.
The Xerath, maybe not. The Xerath over the top. What else can they do? That's going to be the barrier. Not able to flash completely out of the way. Xerath going to pick that one up, but it's in the end a 1-for-2. Gaston falls, just was a little too far forward. The Pantheon trying to make the most of that one, but fantastic job. Gaston on the board. 2-1-2 is the Caitlyn, and the executioner completed.
RGB putting on absolute show. Blue Sea just he's gonna give it to him.
Avert your eyes if you're an ATO fan. The point I was trying to make earlier is somehow Blue Sea playing a champion that doesn't have a global ultimate at all, like has no really ability other than just popping ghosts. Are they gonna kill Shoop underneath this tower? They're gonna knock down this tower and then they're gonna kill Shoop. He's gonna get withered here in just a second, I think, unless somebody.
No, they know Pantheon's on the way.
Yeah, Pantheon's on the way. They're gonna go ahead and ping this and try it and get out of there. Going to land the Q stun. Blue Sea, see you later, Smallest Pig. I don't want to give over any of my shutdown gold. Yeah, they're just going to go ahead and donate the Nasus, unfortunately.
Blue Sea went back with so much gold that he
bought a dead man's plate. He bought
100%.
it just... Yeah. Just bought it.
And a health crystal and a longsword.
I was wondering if he was going to buy a Dead Man's Plate as a second item. I didn't know if maybe he wanted to like index into something a little bit more because he already has that Yomu's. I don't necessarily know that needs like a black cleaver or anything like that. And so I was like, oh, well, if he's going to stack movement speed, a great way to do that would be to just, buy a Dead Man's Plate. So, yep, good to see that he knows exactly where he's going to be valuable, and it's going to make him even tankier. So, even hard to kill that Darius in a team fight, as Dragon is going to be spawning in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think at this point he's identified that damage is not really what he's lacking, but rather he just needs more movement speed to affect more parts of the map. Dead Man's Plate, obviously the best way to do that. I would anticipate that this next item would probably be a Trinity Force. I could be wrong. I think Trinity Force is not great.
I'm anticipating the Shoop and Zones are going to be in a lot of trouble if they don't get the hell out of dodge, and they're going to pop the Herald just to serve as a little bit of a distraction to go ahead and make their way towards this dragon, go ahead and start that objective up. But yeah, if they had not had some help, that would have been very awkward. Chickens, though, going to be knocked down slowly. That's the ultimate. 2 committed to knock him down. Shoop. Just would have been knocked up there. Oh, the Darper trying to get over. Can he get it? I managed to get a kill. Yes, they do. As the Mel is going to get slain, but that's all they've got so far. And RGB, they want to see where they can get more. Blue Sea gets the apprehend. Smallest Pig is the one to knock it down. RGB have absolute control over this map. They're going to look to potentially start down to knock some plates on this bot lane. By tier 2, it is just 17 minutes, and they are sieging on in between turrets. Shoop is just running for his life. Smallest Pig wants to follow him underneath there. Is going to manage to get away out of turret range. With his top tier, or this bottom tier 2 is going to drop, and they're going to go get Dragon, which actually they already got. Never mind. I'm a liar.
You're fine. Yeah, 18 minutes to have a 6k gold lead like this is pretty intense, especially when the gold's all on to members that you really don't need it to be on. It's on this Caitlyn, it's on Blue Sea piloting this Darius. So far, I think the series MVP, should Gaston end up winning this one, is looking pretty obvious to me. But he is just putting on an absolute show on this champion. He's showing us why you surely can't give him any of these, tanky bruiser jungles that just have the ability to affect team fights in such a way and gank in such a way that you really don't expect it. And honestly, just really surprising. I really would never have expected such movement and such momentum coming into this game from Blue Sea on this champion. And he's just making it work, and he's showing us why you need to fear him in this jungle.
Yeah, absolutely. And RGB, they're in a really, really good state right now. It's definitely less precarious than it was in this last game. In the last game, 12-6. They've got a 5.4k gold lead at about 19 minutes. The Baron hasn't even spawned, and they've got several champions worth of gold. The Darper, really just nothing he can do. Flash to get out is going to get followed. Now Gaston is here. Pantheon just trying to see if he can get anywhere. They're not going to be able to prevent him from ulting. He just, I'm sorry, I had to point out, he just said, hey, forget you, Shoop. You can deal with this. I'm leaving. It would have been funny if they had just immediately turned on Shoop and well, he's gone, so you're next. It's just if you shoot, hey, wait a minute, where are you going?
Yeah, I think Shoop was close enough to some walls where he could have just dredge lined his way out. Professor Hex, not in a place you want to be. Okay, he's able to get out.
Yeah, luckily for him, there's nowhere close to Chicken to help him with that, but potentially if he gets done there and I don't know, someone like a Darius going go to hell runs at you, yeah, you're just kind of doomed there. Smallest Pig. This is what I like seeing about what RGB are doing. They are really doing a good job at spreading this pressure. He is just sieging onto these turrets, and everywhere else is being pulled across the map. Ladarper's going to try and come up here and stop him, but I don't think he can.
I don't think anyone on this team at this point can really stop Smallest Pig's 1v1. You really have to send...
What about 4 people? What if they send 4 people? What if they spend a bunch of summoners and run at Smallest Pig with literally everybody and try and kill this guy? He's still living the bomb. He's going to pop ultimate, still not done. Buster shot at him in the turret just to see if that would work. Still not dead. Smallest Pig somehow still living. I swear to God,
no way! Kill.
He somehow does. 4 people there. Buster shot it into a turret. 4 people wailing on him, and still he manages to come away with a kill. Ladarper, the next up on the menu. RGB, can they be stopped?
Certainly not against this top side, man. Smallest Pig and Blue Sea running an absolute train on these people. I mean, this is disgusting. We watched as the entire team, it seemed like, collapse on Smallest Pig, and at some point it seemed like they stopped chasing because they believed that the Tristana just had enough damage to be able to kill him himself, so they kind of all backed off. That immediately allowed Smallest Pig to say, hey, you guys just made a huge mistake. I have the abilities that I need. I have the damage I need to take out this Tristana if I can get close enough. Pops' ultimate gets the health back, which allows him to actually walk up, and he just ends up killing Tristana in 2 autos.
That's just incredible to see Smallest Pig live that long in that top side. Massive respect where it's due. I mean, 4 people should have been enough to kill him without any deaths, but I don't know what happened in the middle where they just weren't able to kill him. And that's only going to get worse as time goes on. If he's continued, if he's allowed to continue having solo farming time in these lanes, just picking up minions, the more stacks he has, the worse it gets. And if that's how strong he is right now, then God, where is he going to be in the next 10 minutes, assuming the game even lasts that long?
100%. I believe what happened is all 4 members were heading up top to stop him, but I think they just believed that he was just too weak to be able to do anything, that he would eventually just run under tower. So they're all saying assuming. Exactly. So they all pull off to defend the mid push, which was being done by Gaston and Binding Light, and in doing so, they basically sentenced zones to death.
Well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen that you're watching this, just remember, you know what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me. And ATO, they made an ass out of themselves on that one. Gaston, going to manage to flash to the side. Mini Taxer, though, fully underneath the tournament turret. Meanwhile, though, Professor Hex trying to get as much damage as he can, but now they're in an awkward spot. Professor Hex might potentially go down here. Blue Sea on top of multiple, but now they've got to run for the hills. Mini Taxer, though, providing a little bit further support. Blue Sea just trying to avoid getting knocked up. Smallest Pig is here. It's 3 dead for the side of RGB. That might have been the moment that ATO found, and now they're picking down on this dragon. They could be able to tie up the score. A small moment, but they make it work.
100%. They're going to be able to claim this dragon, get the nice, well-needed bounty for themselves, hopefully close up this gold lead by just a little bit, make it a, I think it'll be a 3K lead instead of a 5K. Nope, still goes to a 4K lead, rather. Yeah, just a bit of a misstep on the... Well, not even a misstep. I just think Minion Taxer played it excellently. He had a really, really good ultimate onto the mid lane, and he was able to catch Binding Light off guard. And because of that, because of Binding Light not being there, you lose a lot of your CC, a lot of your ranged CC power, which allows Gaston to do a lot of his damage himself. And that just allows them to continuously run their team over. They're able to dodge Blue Sea and stay out of the way of him as he runs up from the bot jungle, and... yeah, they just played that team fight really well. I'm surprised that they're, that was just a really good thing to see out of the side of ATO.
Yeah. I think for RGB, I don't think they necessarily did anything wrong in the mid lane play. I just think they probably felt that they were safer than they were, and then ATO just decided that they wanted to force something and believe that they found a moment, which they did, and it ended up working out for them. But I think as the game goes on, those moments are going to become rarer and rarer because they still haven't knocked down any of these structures across the map. They still don't have the freedom of movement that RGB does, and so especially when you get looking towards potentially trying to take this Baron, not only does ATO not do this quickly, but they don't even have a way to get into the river easily if RGB have already set up. So the next couple of minutes, as far as how they want to try and play this out, is going to become really important, especially since Minion Taxer is really not going to get too much more powerful. Is kind of reaching that point where he's going to be as threatening as he's going to be at the end for the rest of the game. And they still don't have an answer for Smallest Pig yet. He is still kind of solo farming in those side lanes, and at some point you're really going to have to find a way to answer him. And if you overcommit to an objective and you don't check that Nasus, or if you try and make that trade, you're going to have to realize you're going to lose a lot. So they have to keep tabs on him and find a solution.
100%. Yeah, like you said, the opportunities are going to be few and far between. It's going to be really hard as the game progresses for Minion Taxer to find Binding Light or Gaston on their own as they start to group up and they start to kind of form this 4-man death ball as Smallest Pig is pushing the side lanes. All they really have to do is wait for Minion Taxer to land and either land a root from Chicken or a root from Binding Light, and that man will immediately die.
Sure. I think they have to be Johnny on the spot for that, though, because generally speaking, like when Minion Tamer has been using that ultimate, he's been doing a really good job at getting a jump out and on the stun. And so I think even better than that, too, not only can you, if you can try to land the root, will that help, but also just be in a position where he won't be able to land on anybody that isn't a tank, and Nasus needs to be very careful because Minion Tamer might just be looking for potential opportunity to gank. Ping's coming down, though. They're going to be able to take this blast cone over the wall. Now you have to choose because Liz Harper cannot handle Nasus on his own, so you're going to have to define which one to respond to. Do you want to potentially protect this top lane turret? Do you want to vote contest for Baron? So far, they're doing neither. They're just choosing to run down the mid lane, trying to get this structure and potentially cut off the recalls from RGB. This is going down really, really quickly, though. Ping's coming down, but this is far, far too late. Zerathulth is going to get basically nothing done. Bluesy, he's going to activate the Ghost Chicken. The first of all, not sure why they didn't just recall. Chicken gave up a kill for absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Nasus on the bot side still pushing. ATO, they might potentially be able to get this second mid lane turret. And, yeah, going to have to cut off the recall.
Yeah, they had no vision in the bush right above mid lane, so they all run in there attempting to try and cut off the side of ATO as they're retreating from killing that mid tower, not knowing that they're all just sitting in the bush waiting for
They're trying to kill Smallest Pig. They've committed the teleport for this. Pantheon ulti is surely going to be coming out soon.
They're certainly going to try.
He managed to pop his movement speed abilities and has got the hell out of dodge, so a teleport committed to not be able to get him, but they did get both the Smallest Pigs summoners, but unfortunately they have lost the Baron, so now this will just be the return siege for RGB.
Yeah, shout out to Star Wars for that reference there. Yeah, I don't think they had any chance of actually catching Smallest Pig there. As soon as you miss your initial stun from Professor Hex, and the fact that he's already, he has Ghost, and he's just running his way out, he hasn't even used his ultimate yet, there's really little to no chance they're going to be able to damage him in time before the rest of RGB gets there to back him up. So he's able to get out of there scot-free. Meanwhile, Blue Sea is just farming up his jungle. Don't really see a problem with that. Get your money while it's due, and there's really nothing else to take on the map at this point. They don't have Baron, so they are pushing this mid lane. I wonder if Blue Sea will match with this team, or if he's going to side lane. Seems like they're not pushing a side lane. I feel like they have the power to do so.
I think they want to group because Dragon's coming up in the next 30 seconds. They want to try and see if they can get control over this. It would put them potentially at drag point. It would also give them the chance to get a pretty good, decent team fight. Very specifically, though, if they want to try and look for this, they need to get on top of Professor Hex and Zoans. You really don't want that Tristana free-firing wherever possible. You want to punish that Xerath, who is fairly immobile. They still have Baron for about another minute, so Smallest Pigs can be able to kind of push out those waves on the bot side. That's something that someone will have to respond to. I think for ATO right now, they're just making the decision to not try and contest in this Dragon. They don't have any vision. They don't know where anybody's set up. They don't want to risk losing anybody, especially when they're trying to scale, take a little bit more time to scale into this late game. So they're happy to just give this up for now. But I think that they know that this next fight, they're gonna have to do something around the next Dragon because they don't want to give up that soul.
100%. The ticker is on now for the side of ATO. They know that if they are able to grab... If they're able to grab this Fire Soul, it is going to spell disaster. Gaston is going to start nuking people over the top. If you thought that Blue Sea was a problem, just wait until Caitlyn with 3 items and Fire Soul starts hitting you with headshots.
Absolutely. Shoop manages to land a dredge line that might just deliver him straight to death. Chicken trying to survive for now, manages to dodge the Harper ult, but Gaston putting in so much damage. That's the minion tamer though, trying to come inside. Dog, so much damage, but he was checked the entire time. And now all of the damaging abilities that ATO had have been expended. They're going to have to retreat even further underneath their base. Chicken will respawn, or will rather return to base and then look to teleport in. The Baron buff has dropped off though, but more importantly, a lot was expended, but only Ladarper was the person to die.
Definitely, and you know what we haven't talked about is something that we discussed or referred to during Champ Select, the Yone 1 in 10 power spike. We're almost there.
The 1 in 10
We're almost there.
Spike.
We almost have it. Once he gets that 4 more deaths, I'm sure that ATO will come back into this game solely through Yone. Yeah. Until then, we're just waiting to see it. Yeah, it just feels so bad on the side of Yone. He's only got 2 items in this entire game, 223 farm. You're really not doing much damage. We saw there, as soon as you use the ultimate, stepped on a trap and literally gets 2-shot. It is a tough game if you are trying to dive this backline with all the CC that they have available to them. Meanwhile, Zones trying to push out this top side. You can tell that they're trying to get some kind of vision control back to their top side so they can start pushing out these waves. Meanwhile, RGB electing to back off.
Someone that's been quiet for a little while has been Blue Sea. He hasn't had the chance to get going like he has in this early game. He's been passively farming and just trying to finish off some of his items, but hasn't been gifted the opportunity to get involved in some of these team fights really since the early game. And so I'd like to see him become a little bit more involved, especially as they get more control across this map. I mean, really, if I toggle the vision here, which I'm going to do, so I'm going to toggle the vision for blue side. So if you see red size vision, that's it. That's what they can see right now. It is dark and full of terrors. It is incredibly defensive vision. If I swap this over to blue side, similarly, although their vision is just because it was behind them and they haven't placed it yet. But the point I'm making is that even right now, ATO, they don't feel comfortable trying to walk out and place that vision because they don't know where any of these members of RGB are going to be at. And that's the name of the game for RGB. As long as you can continue to limit that information, then you're going to have a much easier time of controlling the pace of the fights for ATO. Specifically, they want to find these angles to get on top of Professor Hex and Zones because, and something I wanted to point out a second ago, you know, Smallest Pig just stepped up just a little bit closer to that mid tower, and within 2 or 3 auto zones had taken almost half of his health. So it's really important that they get that Tristana in any of these team fights.
Yeah. ATO is about to be put into a very, very rough position. Baron's up in 40 seconds. You've got Smallest Pig pushing up this bot lane. Professor Hex is electing to answer into the Nasus, but teleporting into a fight as Xerath is kind of awkward, right? If you get spotted out, you're going to die instantly. And if you teleport in too far away, well, at least you have the range.
Chicken.
Oh, chicken!
Didn't know that he was on a ward, gets spotted out, and he is now, in fact, dead. And unfortunately, that Mel will be dead, as I mess with the camera, for about the next 44 seconds, which is a long time as this game starts to get longer and longer.
They might get Baron for that.
Ooh, I don't know about that. They don't necessarily need Chicken to prevent Baron from going down. No offense to Chicken, but like he is just there kind of as emotional support. Smallest Pig doing so much damage. Is going to be able to get the Nasus. One more auto would do it. Pursues him underneath the turret. Now multiple members are trying to respond to this. Ultimate committed from Lid Harper, so they will manage to get him. Lucy, though, wants to see if he can find something else, but it's that Xerath dead, one of their major damage dealers down. However, it is still 4 strong for the side of ATO. But Chicken will be responding soon, and so no Baron threat from either team just yet.
Yeah, they just don't feel confident enough to be heading towards that Baron with Belusi, Gaston, and Binding Light still up. There's still a lot of power in that 3-man kit. Yeah, they're going to go over to this Dragon and get Dragon Soul, assuming that Minion Taxer and Light Harper aren't actually on their way over. Here's the thing. If Light Harper lands a sick knock-up on the backline, followed up by Minion Taxer, they might be able to take out Gaston if he's not paying attention.
Yep. Gaston is recalling. This is, I think, a bad time to be trying to go do that. It seems like I never wanted to get
Smallest Pig is still down. They might force this.
Yeah, let's see if they're able to do so. RGB is not in a position where they have to fight for this. They could just afford to let it go. It's just going to be 2 ultimates committed to try and knock down this Mel. They will for sure get her. It's just going to be a matter of how long it takes. Chicken has been systematically mispositioned, not respecting the fact that ATO has the ability to just take these fights anytime they want to. Shoot, though, maybe the next person to get out of position. They're trying to get on top of Blue Sea. He is going to get exhausted, goes into the Resurrection. That's going to be the GA pops. Meanwhile, though, Smallest Pig is running a train here. Minion Taxer trying to see if he can kill down Blue Sea, who's just surviving. Minion Taxer nowhere to go. This is the fight that they wanted. Now they've got to try to get on top of Zones. He is going to be momentarily rooted. Double kill for the Caitlyn. This should just be the Drag Soul going. Zone's going to be withered and dead. It's a triple kill for Caitlyn. That's going to be the Drag Soul. Smallest Pig did so much work in that team fight, and that might just be the second win for RGB.
Smallest Pig doing an absolutely great job taking out multiple members on the side of ATO. He's showing exactly why
Baron as well.
He picked this Nasus in the first place. Yeah, this Nasus is so disgusting. Here's the thing about the new quest, right? The new season. Getting level 20 is oppressive, right? It's already oppressive on most top laners. You know what's even more oppressive on? A stacking Nasus, who's just going to land 1 Q and do half your health bar.
Yep.
Now he's split pushing by himself. He's going to 2-shot this damn inhibitor. It's so disgusting, especially now that he's got Fire Soul. His Q is going to do like 75% of your health bar.
Yep. And they're going to have Baron on 5. We're going to watch that replay and to see how that fight kicked off. So you can see them kind of positioning very aggressively for this fight. Minion Taxer, they're just going to teleport in. And then the ping's immediately coming down on top of the bell. They know that she's out of position. Immediately, Xerath starts to open up with the ult. They just want to start tracking her, passively dealing that damage. And then the ult committed from Minion Taper to get on top of her. That's where she's going to fall. Chicken not being able to get out of there, mispositioned, and is punished greatly for that. But then what happens on the back end of that fight? They're trying to make their way towards the Dragon, thinking that maybe they could potentially catch somebody else out. Another hook goes badly for Shoop, as it has many times this game, and then the fight begins in earnest. Smallest Pig in here as he is starting to zone off multiple members. They manage to pump the Darius, but it's not enough. No further follow-up, and Blue Sea manages to get his way out, and meanwhile, Smallest Pig just putting in so much work, slowing people, landing all of those empowered autos, and then it becomes a triple kill for the Caitlyn, and even Zones not able to get away. That Wither doing so much work, and the triple kill gives them the fight, it gives them the Dragon, it gives them the Baron, and potentially Black Mage the win in this series.
100%. Yeah, RGB is just putting on an absolute show.
Okay, Minion, I think was looking for
overzealous.
I think he was looking for Gaston there, thinking maybe he might be a little bit more isolated, and they had the Yone waiting, but that didn't work. Blue Sea not able to land the apprehend.
Yeah, so Chicken kind of using his mistakes in the past to try and bait out minion taxer.
I don't know if we're going to be that generous.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to be that generous. I think he was going to try and push that wave a little bit more and got caught out. If I hear some team comms to the effect in that moment, like, oh, yeah, I'll just bait, I'll sacrifice myself to suck him in, then I'll believe it, but it's like I want proof because I don't want to believe that he did that. What I can't believe, though, is that Smallest Pig is drawing 3 people and still managing to take turret structures with Baron-empowered minions. And Chicken, though, potentially could drop. He has just been so bullied throughout the entirety of the series so far. And now it's going to be Smallest Pig getting Buster shotted out. Meanwhile, Xerath just trying to do literally anything. Ult's going to get caught off. Gaston in potentially some trouble here, but just is going to land the damage. Yep, that's going to be the end of this game. RGB, all they have to do is just escort these minions in, start to knock down this tower. That's the Xerath gone as the Caitlyn just putting in the damage. And will they be able to get Blue Sea? Yes, they will, but Smallest Pig, he's in the middle of 3 people. Minion Taxer can only just try and make this a cosmetic comeback as Zones just trying to stop Nasus from doing anything, but nobody can stop Nasus. He is empowered. He is the strongest person in the game, and that is a match point for RGB as they're going to try and collect a few more kills. Smallest Pig just wants to pad the stats a little bit. Shoops gives him the thumbs up, but that is the end of game number 2.
Blue Sea still obviously having great games both series. There's nothing, both games. There's not really much to say there. Same thing with Smallest Pig. I've also been surprised about Gaston and Binding Light. They've been silently having great games, in both games rather. Gaston doing tons of damage both on the Sivir and then on the Caitlyn. And you know, overall, if you're on RGB, you're just stoked with the performance of your team.
Absolutely. I think something else, too, that we haven't discussed yet, but I think is interesting, is the fact that RGB have won on both sides. So now if you're allergic to objective, like, side advantage has not really helped you at all. You had decent drafts both games, but RGB have been able to play better on theirs. And so now you got to be looking like, okay, well, what can we get that's not necessarily side-dependent or anything like that, but rather is just a really good team comp, as RGB keeping their bans the same, Pantheon, Talon, and Aphelios getting the ban board. While allergic to objective, they don't want to give the Cho'Gath, they don't want to give the, sorry, not the Renekton, the
Yunara.
The Yunara one, then the Kayn is the word I was looking for. And so...
Yeah, I believe those are the same bans as the last game.
Yeah. Yeah, a number of those bans have been fairly consistent throughout the series, so these guys must know something. Allergic to objective, though, they want to get aggressive, and they are locking in a very early Draven.
Yeah, the early Draven, I wonder if they plan on pulling out something like the Yasuo against it. I know the Yasuo is a great counter because it immediately blocks the Q. It doesn't reflect back, and you basically just all in him. You could pair things. You know, we saw the Yasuo combined with the Zac earlier today, which didn't end up resulting in a win, but you can pair it with something else that is more of a deliverable, like a Malphite, for instance.
Exactly.
Not to say that they will end up doing this, but I'm just going to say this. A Malphite immediately does signal some kind of Yasuo team comp. I hope I just called it. You do want the win wall really bad into Draven. It is such a good counter. Also, first picking the Malphite, you really are able to pivot it into the jungle or top lane if needed. We surely will not see its support. It is just not good down there. You have to basically wait until level 6 to do anything. Samira, also really good. Ooh. Yeah, the Reflect blocks the Q as well. That's also a very, very good pick into the Draven. I wonder if they'll pair it with something like the Alistar. Meanwhile, Silas picked into the Malphite. I knew it was coming as soon as it wasn't banned, and they're also going to follow that up with the Volibear.
Yeah, I'm starting to like the way that these compositions are shaping up for both these teams. However, the one caveat I think that you have to point out for allergic to objectives is that Draven is a feast or famine champion. It is high risk, high reward. That's going to get repaired with Rakan, so that means the Malphite should be going either to the top or the jungle. I do like Samira Rakan, very, very mobile as a pair. Also great lane presence, great trading. But Draven, I think for RGB, the objective immediately becomes clear. You need to gank that Draven. You want to try and deny him the ability to deny his stack, his cash-ins before he can get a kill. I think if you do that, you're going to be sitting very pretty. And Samira Rakan is a great pair to do that.
100%. Samira Rakan is able to get on top of this Draven quite easily. That being said, Silas has some good ultimates. If he can get the Samira stacks to be able to actually trigger the Samira ultimate, that's a good option. Rakan ultimate's very good on Silas. You're able to route the entire team together. And of course, he's got the Malphite ultimate. option as well. We're going to have to see if RGB pivots and elects some other laners that may have some weaker ultimates against the Sylas. That being said, we still don't even know where the Sylas is going. For all that we know, it could be minion attacks are taking Sylas in the jungle. Yeah.
I'd be very surprised to see it that way, just because I think that Sylas is better in the mid lane than I think it is the jungle. I think it's easier to, you know, kind of be more flexible and to respond to things better if it's in the mid lane. But that said, I mean, I would be very surprised if it was Volibear top. I think that Volley is just going to go to the jungle, and I think based on what we're seeing now, they're trying to get some bans to protect potentially their top lane pick. However, RGB, starting on that red side, means that they get the final say. They're going to try and ban out some more stuff to protect their potential mid lane pick. Stuff that is available. So Rise, Orianna still on the table. Any other interesting mid lane picks that I think we could see? Cassiopeia, Galio also available.
Galio would really result in very low damage.
Asol would be another great pick. It would give them some scaling presence and would give them quite a bit of team fight. I think Asol is like a perfect fit for this composition, especially given what the Malphite is. Like, you can layer those two ults right on top of each other. But Rise, anything global, I think that will help them. I think they just want to continue to try and stack that capability. Even a TF would be great.
The only problem is that you're not really sure where the Sylas is going, and so if you assume it's going mid lane, you don't really want to go Aurelion Sol mid lane, because Sylas will just tear apart that champion by virtue of the fact that he's able to get on top of him fairly easily. And as Aurelion Sol, that's the last thing you want, is someone who's sticky and able to stick on top of you the entire fight.
Cassiopeia.
The Cassiopeia does make sense. You're able to stop the dash of Sylas by virtue of the pool. It stops all movement. That is a great ability to use. I wonder if ATO recognizes this and pivots the Volibear into the jungle and maybe Sylas top against the Malphite.
I mean, I think wherever that Sylas go, if that Malphite is anywhere near the top lane, as long as it's not in the jungle, I think Sylas just matches wherever Malphite goes. That does give you some draft flexibility, and you can try and draft something else. But I want to see what they put with this Draven as far as the support. So Vex going to be in that mid lane, so that Sylas could go to the jungle. Wherever Sylas go, or wherever Malphite goes, I think that's where Sylas wants to be. And then there's flex back, because Volley could also go top depending on what they get here. This will just be the support lock.
Yeah, they're going to wait.
Yeah, so they're going to wait. They'll just see where it gets locked in and then counter it.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna flip flop depending on where they believe Malphite will go.
I would like to see a Bard or a Pike or something very aggressive to be paired with this Draven. Something with mobility that can also be aggressive and help him set up for kills. And Warwick, that means Volley or Vex support maybe? Question mark.
Oh no. Okay. Well, here's the thing. If Volibear support is not horrible, if they pick a tank. If they don't pick a tank, it cannot be Volibear support. It's so brutal. It's unplayable.
What do RGB want to lock in here? This could be a top laner or a jungler.
Yeah, so they basically confirmed that they're going to be sending Malphite top.
They've directed aggressively Zones and Shoop on that Sylas and on that Draven respectively. They're going to have to make sure that they can cash in on that Draven before he gets killed. They definitely want to get those stacks and get him paid. But RGB, they've got plenty of ways to deny that. Gaston and Binding Light on that Samira that were calm respectively. The other thing I want to track too is this jungle matchup between Minion Taxer on that Volibear and then Bluesea on that Echo. Bluesea has been fantastic this entire series, and now he's playing on something that's a little less tanky. Interested to see what he'll be able to do.
Definitely, 1000%. I like that Gaston is elected to take the cleanse. He realizes the only way that he's really going to die in this 2v2 is if Shoop lands the chains and stuns him up into repeated zones auto attacks. So Gaston and Binding Light are definitely going to be on the back foot during this early game, probably until level 4 or 5, just because of the amount of damage that Shoop and Zones can output. I would imagine that's how this lane state's going to go. But once the lane gets towards the level 6 level, as long as Gaston has not fallen too far behind, you know, is only down 20 CS or so, that's pretty much the sweet spot where you want to be. You're going to feel just fine going into the mid game.
I think priority-wise, I think that top lane and mid lane will kind of passively go back and forth between who has prio chicken. I think once he reaches level 3, he's going to be much more happy to kind of trade with Professor Hex. You know, late upper, though, should have permanent prio on that top side just until there's a jungle to visit, just because he's passively able to shove the wave with the damage on his auto attacks. Like, he's going to be a little bit more efficient that way. That's it, though. Smallest Pig's doing a really good job kind of trading for the Qs, but he's so dependent on mana that it's a little bit harder. Chicken got that level 3, like we were talking about. Is going to be able to start to stack these Qs. The Fang bites, they're not exactly fun if you're Vex. And she's more cooldown dependent, so that means she's going to have to eat a chicken. Already forcing out the flash. And yeah, that's going to be an advantage in that mid lane. That is certainly going to signal some junglers to come and pay it a visit.
100%, yeah. The one thing that you don't like playing against as a Vex player is consistent damage, rather. And that's exactly what Cassiopeia brings to the table. Meanwhile, bot lane, Shoop gets a nice chain grab onto Rakan, but Rakan able to mitigate a lot of the damage due to the Guardian rune that he has elected to take into this matchup. I like the Guardian rune. I think Guardian rune with Rakan is always good, especially in this matchup. You mitigate a lot of that damage with that shield, and it's just basically a nice little Malphite shield that you just get passively, you know, every 30 seconds or so.
Ping's going down on that bot side. Minion Tabor's here. Smallest Pig's going to have to find his way out of that. Flash to confirm the fear.
That was sick.
Yeah, he's just going to try and walk his way out of this one, or at least make this take longer if he can. He won't be able to get away. He doesn't want to commit the flash, knows that he's dead. So instead, we'll just look to try and get a couple of CS. Just wants to not expend any more. At least he'll have an easier time maybe potentially dodging another gank later on. As Blue Sea, he's going to get seen trying to come in. They're going to taunt him up a little bit. How closely they want to get to him. They need to be careful, but he will be spotted on a ward.
Yeah, with the rough series that Light Harper has had this game, or this set, I think he is extremely happy with the fact that Minion Taxer is paying attention.
Doing quite a bit of damage. Shoop will be forced to walk away. Does stop the recall, but has to pay for it with his health bar.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think that Light Harper is more than happy with the result of that top gank from Minion Taxer. He's been put behind quite a lot this series, and so getting a kill on this counter pick is going to feel really good going into this the remaining part of this game.
Yeah. He's already got his Tiamat too, so that's going to help him passively push the wave. That just means that Smallest Pig will just kind of be permanently farming underneath his turret unless he can kind of manage to freeze the wave there, which I'm sure he would like to do. Chicken wants to stack up this Conqueror, doing so much damage on Professor Hex. But yeah, Lead Hyper very, very happy with the state of the game, and so I think it'll be a little bit difficult for that matchup to get bailed out until Lucy finds a way to come up there. And even if he does, like, Lead Hyper is going to be very, very difficult to lock down as the Warwick. Now, obviously did expend the flash in order to land the fear, but I think that was worth the investment.
Yeah, definitely worth the investment. Meanwhile, in that mid lane, Professor Hex is feeling the hurt from Chicken. That being said, he has landed quite a few nice combos, which has resulted in Chicken and him being relatively the same in health. However, Hex does not have that much mana to be able to keep doing that, and Chicken went ahead and back just to get back to full health, so that he doesn't risk anything going into level 6.
Yeah. Well, and also Chicken, the more he trades... Oh, yep, so this is the gank that we were talking about. Ledarper is going to get ignited, and glad that that gold went over to Smallest Pig, because now he's going to feel a little bit more even in that lane. Fantastic rank for Blue Sea, continuing that that tradition of pushing the pressure up, and yeah... Definitely go up there, Smallest Pig. Get you a couple of turret plates. Why not? Get paid, because they will be there. They will always be there, but maybe you will not get a chance to take them, so you should reward yourself while you can. Obviously, the trade, though, on the bot side is going to be ATO picking up their first dragon of the series, actually, the first time they've got the first one.
100%. And something that is happening right now on the side of Smallest Pig is that he's electing into a AP Malphite build, which is fine-ish. I would much rather see a Thornmail straight into a Frozen Heart. I think a Frozen Heart... Yeah, Frozen Heart would just be so sick into ATO's team comp. I mean, Warwick, Volibear, and Draven all depend on repeated auto attacks, and cutting that down by, I think it's 30%, is such a huge nerf.
So Ledarper missed the ultimate there. Chicken's going to try and land his own, but he will be the next to fall. Manages to flash over the wall. Meanwhile, on the bot side, though, a second game happening. Minion Taxer going to try and land this stun. Doesn't manage to do so. Gaston flash over. Ignite committed. Minion Taxer gets
it.
You would have liked to have seen that go over to Draven, but not going to happen. He'll have to wait for another opportunity. 2 quick kills across the map for ATO.
Yeah, he's got 53 minion or CS so far. That would have been a nice little chunk of change to get. You know, the last thing you want to do as a team with a Draven is take kills from him, because you never know when the Draven might misstep and actually die and give away all of the passive gold he's built up. Meanwhile, on the top side, Smallest Pig putting on a show. I didn't know that the AP Malphite could do that much damage this early, but he also has got an entire wave in his hand, and that might be a dead Warwick.
Ledarper's just going to die there. Flash out to make sure that he doesn't die underneath the turret. Would have had to walk out. But also, I mean, yeah, that damage is surprising, I will admit, but it not like, if you think about it, not that like not that hard to believe because of the fact that like he doesn't have any magic mitigation. Like it's just damage items so far. So yeah, it does make sense why those Qs would hurt.
Yeah.
They want to kill. They want to kill Zones. They want to make sure that he doesn't get a chance to do this. Gaston trying to put the damage, but he's getting stopped. Shoop, though, does slay it. They should have been giving it to Zones. Not going to be able to do so. Blinding Light doesn't want Draven to be able to stack in. Is going to throw out the Whirling Death, and he gets paid. Fantastic for Zones. Is he going to be able to pocket that money? Huge fight. RGB picked it. And ATO, they want to turn around this series, and this is the way to do it. Lucy, he wants to try and find his own kill. Shoop's going to steal his ultimate, and Shoop's going to steal it, or sorry, Lucy's going to use it right back. A couple more autos and a Q would do it. Dash forward, gets the kill. Zones. He wants to potentially get paid a second time. Flash forward, gets the Whirling Axe, and he's 2-0-2, feeling really good as the Draven.
He's got a 1.5k gold lead at 7 minutes.
Yep. This is 2.8. Yeah. This is 2.8 gold. At 8 minutes, ATO, they are doing exactly what they needed to do to get back in this series. Game going really well so far, lots of play, but if this is how it's going to go, they're in good condition to at least potentially to push us to a Game 4.
Yeah, this is exactly what you did not want to happen against this Draven, is he gets 2 big kills that are just going to propel him into a lane state that is so hard to mitigate on the side of RGB that they're going to have such a hard time doing anything. If Rakan steps up, you take 1 or 2 autos and you're near death.
Pig's gone. Yeah, that's how much control that ATO have right now. They're not going to lose out on any objectives. There's going to be a ward to go down just to see this happen. Bluesy wanted to throw that just to see if he could find anything, but Sidewinder not going to get anything done, and so he'll just have to watch those grubs get taken. Even though I see that though on the minimap, they are looking like they want to aggress. This might be their potential. This might be their opportunity to turn it around. But Cassiopeia, yeah, just going to be a little bit too late on the ult. It's going to be a momentary stun. Professor Hex, there's a man disadvantage.
They're going to hold him off.
What do they want to do? Bluesy trying to run forward, momentarily gets stunned, but Chicken is throwing in quite a few Qs. Gonna get feared, though, not gonna be able to finish those kills off, but Bluesy manages to get 2 of those grubs and take it away, so they sacrifice some health, but they're not giving up on these plays.
Oh my, okay, ends up blocking the Q there, but damn, that damage is just so high. Draven already having the longsword, the vampiric scepter, and the pickaxe completed. Obviously trying to get towards that early Bloodthirster, which is just going to make his in-lane sustain so incredible. You're not going to be able to kick him out of lane. I don't even think you kill him if you send 3 people down there. He's so far ahead.
Yeah. An RPG, they're starting to fall a little bit behind right now, which is definitely not what they want. Most importantly, Draven cashing in on that gold. They would have liked to have killed him to deny those stacks. But instead, in the middle, trying to do that, sacrifice 2 kills, trying to make the opposite happen. So they're going to have to slowly recover that. The good news is for them is as Samira goes longer on in this series, she's going to become a team-fighting threat so long as she isn't too severely prevented from farming. She will start to stack up her items. And it'll be very, very difficult as long as they're somewhat even in the fights to beat her. Ladarper, though, he is going to use the suppression on top of the Malphite, who's going to ult himself away. Shoop, trying to make his presence felt. Ladarper potentially wanted to flash underneath the turret. That may not work, but manages to get the kill, walks out. Huge investment given there, is going to go low health, but this should just mean that the Dragon's going to go to Blue Sea and over to RGB.
Yeah, if I'm a top laner, I'm pinging around. What the hell is Shoop doing up here, man?
How are you not here as Lacan?
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, a great play by Shoop, though, ends up taking the kill, and now Chicken gets caught out.
Oh, that's going to be the quickness to buy just a little bit of time, but Chicken is going to die nonetheless. And Blue Sea can only just watch in horror as his mid laner is yet again dead. Zoan's going to get another kill, going to use the ultimate to get back, but straight into the waiting arms of ATO. Blue Sea, that's just not where you want to be going, man. ATO trying to get themselves back in the series.
A absolute disaster strikes RGB, and for the first time this series, ATO showing what they're made of. They draft this team that obviously they have put some practice into. The Professor Hex doing an excellent job mitigating this mid lane despite being in a matchup that's not very favorable for you. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Zones and Shoop doing an absolute masterclass down here. Shoop roaming to multiple lanes, making a difference both towards the top objective and that top lane, making sure that Lightarper has a nice lead for his Warwick. And man, there is just no giving up. There's not a single place where you can feel like RGB has a lead.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, that far away land where Gaston, in addition to the other members of that team, is going to be able to be a great team fighter is so far away. Forces out the flash from Gaston. The smite included just to try and slow him down a little bit, but now maybe will they be able to turn this? Gaston wants to try and stack up to get the ultimate, but not happening just yet. And that turret's still standing, but it is on shaky, shaky legs. Smallest Pig is here. He might want to try and find something as well, but was spotted on the decaying life of that ward. Meanwhile, top side, Lucy, he wants to see if he can force the Darper off this tower, and in fact will. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it's a 6.5k gold lead, 12 minutes in. They already have 2 dragons to their name. Yeah, they didn't get the grubs, but who cares? And if you want to talk about getting yourself back in this series and making plays, this is how you do it. And RGB, they need to find a way to really, really slow this game down and give time for Gaston to become the team fighting threat that they want him to be.
Definitely, and we see Shoop elect to take the Blood Song, so now his burst damage is going to be a little bit higher,
Minion.
but something that'll...
Shoop with the quickness, stolen ultimate. RPG, though. Minion is going to go down, but it's a Flashborn for Professor Hex, and Samira only had 1.5 seconds of ult time before she went down. Meanwhile, Bluesy in that top side, he's just trying to live. Shoot flash forward, smallest pig, I call him smallest IPG, smallest pig, going to be donated as a double kill over to Professor Hex, who's been a menace all series long, hasn't had many chances to be rewarded for it, but this is one such occasion.
Yeah, and like what I was saying about the Blood Song, now that that's been elected onto Shoop, he's going to be doing a lot more burst damage in those short trades. And not only that, a lot of people don't know, but Blood Song actually makes the amount of damage that is dealt to that target increase by a percentage for the next, I believe it's 5 seconds. Let me just check that for you. So they will take 8% more damage for 4 seconds after being hit by an ability, which if you're zones, you're feeling great about that. Yeah, that's at least 2 or 3 auto attacks.
Yeah, that's a long time to be taking that kind of extra damage. It's Professor Hex just doing little circles like a racetrack, trying to land passive damage, throwing that out. Ooh, my goodness. Gaston not too happy about that health exchange.
Yeah, Zones is in his zone right now. He's making sure that he is effectively using this Draven, pushing out these waves. He still has a lot of stacks that have built up since the last time that he cashed those in. So if he gets another kill without dying, it's gonna be really, really hard.
Yeah, Malphite's just gonna be dead here. And I'm gonna be honest, for ATO, if you cannot win a game through this statement, then perhaps you were never destined to win this series, because this is the most dominant start that they've had yet. And they need to close this one out and try and extend the series just a little bit longer. Right now, this seems to be a bad game for RGB. It looks like the composition's just not working out the way that they would like to have drafted. ATO have complete control over the map. They can go anywhere and everywhere they want, and really nobody can do anything about it. Lucy, though, he's going to try and make his presence felt. It's only a level difference, but he just wants to clear the wave. He's not looking to try to fight Ladarpa right now. He is so strong.
Yeah. I just checked, and Draven has 144 Adoration stacks, so... we need to be watching 2 things. Are they able to shut down the Draven and take him out of the map before he cashes in those stacks? Or are they going to just play through maybe a side lane and try to get a tower here or there? I mean, it's so difficult. What do you even do in this situation? Meanwhile, Gaston gets knocked back, and he's going to fall here.
Yeah, you do a lot of dying right now.
And the cash in.
Minion Taxer just wants to try and get underneath the turret, but won't be able to do it. But Zones cash in yet again. A tremendous amount of money going in his pocket. Already has the Collector, the Bloodthirster. This Draven is absolutely online for ATO. I mean, they did what they needed to do. They protected him, made sure he could cash in. But actually, I'll be honest, it wasn't even really ATO that did it. Zones would like to cash in again, even though it's kind of fairly early. Multi-man fear. Ultimate goes white for the Darper, but it doesn't matter. They're going to slay Chicken. This unfortunate Snake has just not had a chance to get anything going. And ATO, they can start to put the finishing touches on this game if they want. They're only 15 minutes in, and they're sieging onto the towers. Already at that tier 2.
It's 15 minutes in, and it's nearly a 10,000 gold lead.
That is kind of disgusting.
This is the most dominant game of the series, and it's really, really crazy that it's actually coming from the side of ATO, who have started this series 0-2.
I mean, it's good to see that the mental is strong after starting off that way, and I think a lot of other teams would have said, okay, let's get this over with game 3, thinking that it's a desperate situation. But ATO put together a really, really good draft that it seemed very, very confusing to us. But I mean, hey, credit where credit's due. It is absolutely working for them. And right now, they're denying RGB any chances to get back into the game. They're making sure that they choke out as much of the jungle as they possibly can. They're being aggressive in their positioning, making sure that they can't even push waves out very far. And that's exactly what you want if you want to make sure that Gaston can't get anything going. Because that's really the only thing that you're worried about with ATO is that Samira getting a bunch of kills. And I think that they're itemizing well to prevent that from happening too. Shoot, got to steal the big raptor.
Okay, so we've got, meanwhile, towards that bot side, Minion Tax are able to take the dragon. They're now on soul point, which is just such a dangerous position to be in.
It's a fast soul point.
Yeah, it's a very fast soul point. I wonder what is going to be... if they're going to just elect to take the Baron when it comes to spawn here shortly.
Ult to the mid lane. Professor Hex running in. Shoop is going to kill Gaston. We may not even reach the Baron point right now because of how deadly Zones is right now. Their damage is just absolutely stacking. Professor Hex going to get charmed in. Tried to recast the ultimate. Didn't really get anything for it. Is going to get shut down by Blue Sea. And that's about the first bit of luck that they've had in the last several minutes, but it still cost them the turret in the mid lane. It's cost them the Rift Herald. And a long way for them to go in this game if they want to try and fight it out. They're already being pushed really to defend their inhibitors. I think very important for ATO, do not try and take those inhibitors right now. Wait until the Baron spawns so you can make the most use of that, because you do not want to give Gaston or any of these other members any extra CS, any extra gold if you can avoid it.
100%. Yeah, don't give them any way back into this game. At this point, you're so ahead, you literally can just farm, take objectives as they spawn, and win the game out that way. I think there is some brownie points to be had if you can manage to end the game before 25 minutes, but it's not necessary. And in a tournament setting like this, I don't think you necessarily want to go for that, off the rip, especially when you're down 0-2.
No, I agree. And I've said this before in a couple other series, but I think for RGB, this is now especially important. You start making a list of things that you can absolutely without. You find only a couple places that you're willing to go to, and you go as a group, prevent yourself from being caught. And smallest big, he just wants to get out of here. Minion Taxer would like to slow him up. There's a couple of people that potentially rotating to take him out, but RGB responding in kind. Do they want to try and find something here on the Darper? They're going to try and slow him down, but it's going to be quite the task to knock down this Warwick. They've got him grounded right now. They're doing a good job of it. He's going to get stunned, but is still so tanky. Still doing a great job of surviving, but eventually they knock him down. Pings on the top side, but RGB got what they wanted.
Yeah, but at the same time, ATO is spawning this Herald towards the top side. They're going to be able to take this tower. And once they do, I wonder if they look for even the tier 2 as well, or the tier 1 as well. And it looks like Vex is going for it. They've got the damage that they need to be able to do this. Not only that, but Shoop has a Malphite ultimate. Watch him.
Yeah. I think they're just going to go ahead and be happy with the place that they got there. But again, I think that they're cognizant that they don't want to take that turret just yet. They want to wait for Baron, set up a play for that. In the meantime, though, at least trading for something, Chicken's going to be able to try and trade for this tower in this bot side, which is, knock down the structure, get some of that bonus gold going, get some of the objectives going your way. Just little incremental wins will help you get back into the game. You definitely don't want to call the game over before it's over. And right now, I think RGV do have ways into it. They are a significant amount of gold down, but that is not the end of the world. And they have a lot of scaling to do. So if they can slow this game down and mount an admirable defense of their base, then there's worlds where they can get back in this game.
Yeah, I think it will require two things. A, you've got to position yourself in a way where Professor Hex isn't just launching ability after ability and chunking down your team before the team fight. B, you have to catch zones in the fight. You have to lock him down and actually take him out of the fight before it even begins to prevent the amount of damage. But Shoop is just going to assassinate Smallest Pig.
Yeah, that's not how you do that, and that's pretty much going to signal the Baron almost on spawn. It's only been up for 8 seconds, but it looks like ATO, they're going to move towards that objective. Thousands of gold spread across multiple members here. Really, the only person that doesn't have it is just Minion Taxer on that Volley Bear, but I don't think he particularly care. What do they want to do about this RGB? Blue Sea. He'd like to get over it. Now, this is a really, really safe play for him. So long as he doesn't get stunned before, is forced to use the ultimate, now has to get the hell out of there. They're just going to go straight back to the Baron. They told that Echo, not so fast. We know what you want to do, and we're going to prevent it from happening.
100%. Take that, Baron. Yes, thank you for the free donation. RGB, ATO is walking away with this game.
Can even get out of here.
Yeah, I don't think you're able to. I think if Light Harper actually positions himself towards the top. Okay, now it's looking a little sketch. If Light Harper just ran around the top side, I feel like you just catch them out, but they're going to elect to just back off. Yeah,
wasn't able to get that ultimate, and we've talked about earlier that ultimate can miss, but, even just getting in range to get close enough to do damage to somebody, though. Multiple people back. Light Harper is kind of on his own. Minion Taxer waiting in the wings just a little bit. Dragon to be spawned in 35 seconds. RGB, they're likely feeling that they're going to be forced to fight with this. No one teleporting towards the top or mid yet, though that blue wave is going to start to push in. And RGB, you're gambling a lot here trying to fight for this dragon, but I think that they know that they have to fight for it. You can't afford to give both of these buffs away. Let's see where they can position. Can they get somebody? You want to try to get zones. You want to try and get Professor Hex, but you still have so much damage to work with, or to worry about. Light Harper and Minion Taxer there. No slouches, and Shoop doing a really good job of being a nuisance in this series. Smallest Big, forced to ult and flash out. Really, really good job of not getting hit by the Vex. That's going to deny some of that engage. This would potentially be a long fight. Quickness on the multiple. That's the
caught.
knockup. Gaston trying to get the ultimate going. It's managed to get a couple, but it's not enough. It's just enough to stall Chicken. It looked like maybe it was going to be great, but that's 4 and dead. Only the mid laner alive for RGB. They're just too far behind. There's nothing they can do. And ATO, they may be able to end the game right now. They're going to run through this bot lane, knock down this tower, and potentially look to get themselves in this series.
Yeah, Binding Light, you know, she had an incredible engage on the Recon, able to lock up 4 people, and that seemed like the go button for the side of RGB. The problem was, Smallest Pig had to use his ultimate to actually get out of the fight earlier to avoid dying, and at that point, once you use the Recon ultimate and the Malphite ultimate, you really don't have much more in the tank, and at that point, it's just a simple fight for the side of ATO, and they just end up winning it handedly.
Yeah. And now this starts to kind of feel like the final death roll for RGB, at least in this specific game. ATO, they've done really, really well to respond. And hopefully with a win this dominant, it'll give them some, it'll buy them a new level of respect from RGB, and perhaps that will give them a little bit more leeway. Or RGB can say, okay, if that's how you want to play, then we'll draft even harder. We'll draft something even more punishing and do our best to knock you down. Shoop sees Bluesy here. It is a couple level disadvantage, but Shoop not particularly worried about it because he's going to be able to land this Chains of Corruption on top of Bluesy. This man is almost certainly going to be dead. Goes into the ultimate, the Malphite ult on top of that, but that's not going to matter even remotely. Spoofpex, he could just go ahead and take that win in there. Oh, waited for Binding Light to get over the wall. Professor Hex just going to go back over now.
Nice flash.
Yeah, great movement here for the side of ATO. They're going to put the finishing touches on this game now. They're going to knock down these structures. They have Baron for only 1 minute more, but they don't even necessarily need it. They're going to knock down this mid tower. There's really nothing that Gaston can do, just so underpowered. He's just going to be forced to watch this Nexus, or sorry, rather watch this inhibitor get sieged.
Yeah, it's looking like we might have a series on our hands. I mean, originally I felt like we were just watching a very simple 3-0, but ATO showing that they've got something left in the tank, holding on to their strong picks to the third game in the series. I'm really surprised with both Zones and Shoop pulling out this awesome Draven Silas combo. We talked about it before the game started that it does a ton of damage, levels 1 through 4 essentially, and they're able to take advantage of that perfectly, get 2 kills on the board, and it feels like they've just catapulted the game into the state we see it in now.
Absolutely. Well, and also shout out to Professor Hex, doing a tremendous amount on that Vex to set up these team
hell
fights.
yeah.
The fears, these group fears have been absolutely amazing for them to win fights off of that. I would say, even though this game isn't technically over, I think it definitely feels like it is. The finishing touches, as we've repeated a couple times, ATO, there's just logical ways for them to end it out. The Elder Dragon about 4.5 minutes, Baron in 1.5 minutes. Once they get that, they can start to kind of push those finals objectives. But I think the good news is for RGB, even if you lose this game, you're still permanently on match point for the rest of the series. Like, ATO is going to need another win, at least to get out of trouble. And then at that point, it's a best of 1, and who knows what happens there in that full best of 5. But, RGB, even if they drop this one, they can just, take comfort in the fact that they've got plenty of breathing room, and they can look to try and redo this result in Game 4.
Yeah, I think ATO, if they win this game, which they should, they will have a definite new breath of life going into Game 4. The question then becomes, hey, was it ATO all along that had a deeper champ pool? They're going to start pulling ahead in the series? Or was this just a slight misstep by the team, or by the side of RGB?
Yep. All right, RGB, let's see what you can do. Baron is in a minute's time. You need to try and hold on as much of this base as you possibly can. Again, just trying to gain as much passive gold as coming in from those minions, but they've got to try and protect the top lane turret. Oh my god, Zones. One auto just doing so much damage to that turret. If he's left alone for too long, the structure will start to fall. But RGB right now, they're being pulled across the map in multiple ways. They can't figure out which place they're going to have to respond to. Not enough bodies for all the fires that ATO is trying to set. And now Shoop has stolen the Malphite ultimate. That's going to give them a lot of threat in this potential team fight in the base. RGB, what are you willing to live without? When are you going to pull the trigger? As these inhibitors go down, if you lose all 3, that Baron is a death sentence. So you got to try and find a win a fight here and potentially steal it for your own. But they're just huddled underneath. The Nexus towers really know where they can go right now. Black Mage, this is the final steps, the final nails in the coffin for at least this game.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's many answers left on the side of RGB. I think that it should be pretty straightforward for how ATO wants to close this out. They're working their way throughout the whole base, knocking down all the inhibitors, knocking down all the turrets. They've got Baron spawning right now with the Elder Dragon spawning in the next 2 minutes and 50. I would be surprised if we even get to that point. They should be able to close this out pretty handedly with the Baron alone if they don't catch anyone out right now.
Yeah, RGB, you got to remember that it's not your jungle that you can go one out to. They could be waiting in literally any and every brush. And I think RGB, they're going to have to realize that they're going to have to give this Baron. They're way too late to it, at least now. There's no way to contest it, so I think they're just going to try and find a way to mount a final valiant defense. This will just be, a cosmetic final hurrah for them. I think once ATO starts to grab that Baron, they're going to make their way out. They've got double super minions pushing in every wave. They're pinging onto the base, and this should just be the final push here for ATO.
It is the final push, and we should see some kind of split. I would expect that we will have Warwick pushing on this. Oh, they don't even need to push the side lanes. There's no inhibitor left, so they really could just walk this straight at the middle and end the game.
Blissey, not sure what the goal was here. I guess trying to steal away camps wherever he could. Should be able to get himself to safety unless he gets ulted by Professor Hex, in which case this is going to be a very short trip. Oh, shoot, though. He's being aggressive. He's trying to cut off this rotation. Yeah, they've cut off Lucy. There's really nowhere he can go except to just go straight into the waiting arms of Professor Hex. He's going to go unstoppable. And yeah, without the jungler, without another man to help put out all these fires, this should surely be the end of the game. Here comes Shoop and company. Double super minions pushing in through every single lane. Teleport from Malphite Chicken, just trying to land the damage. Sent fleeing the quickness, but it's just to deliver him to his own death. Oh, it's Gaston wants to try to get something. Wait a minute. Hold on. That's a bunch of people dead. LaDarper, though, is going to turn that back around. Got a triple kill, but Zones lands the final Q. For a brief moment, we thought the impossible would happen, but a quadra kill for Zones. And ATO, they're not going to go quietly. They're going to get their first win of the series and look to keep their hopes alive.
Playing certain champions. That being said, Maniacs are doing a great job in this past game. We saw him pulling out some great plays from that champion, and honestly, I'm just a little surprised of the switch here. But that being said, it's probably a tactical switch, unless Maniacs did have something to go, something prior that was set up that he has to get to. Just excited to see how this actually changes things moving forward, with the fact that Chubb would bring a whole new field of champions into the game.
Yep. Any kind of change like that, especially when it's a player change, brings in a whole new things to consider. But these bans largely staying the same for RGB, is they're going to immediately lock in the Viego. Yeah,
the Viego locked in immediately, which we saw earlier today being piloted by Albie, who, by the way, Albie and the Big Pythons did end up beating Mentally Challenger in that low losers bracket final, which means that we will be seeing Psychosis versus Big Pythons in the Yellow Division final. That will happen right after this series. That being said, having back into this series, we saw how strong the Viego can be, and it's answered immediately by the Xin Zhao.
Yep, love that duel. Love the pick of those two those champions in that role. I like seeing them fight a lot in the jungle. I like seeing what the teams are able to do with those two champions in the game. As Kai'Sa going to be the immediately followed for Allergic to objectives. I love that Kai'Sa. It's just to see what they'll pair with it. Just about any support will work with it, but some are obviously better than others. RGB, they kind of got skunked a little bit in that last game in terms of the draft. Some things definitely didn't go their way. Got some nasty early fights that put them behind. So what would they do to try and mitigate that potentially in this game?
100%. And it should be said that there still are plenty of champions available that you can combo with the Kai'Sa, especially into something like a Nami, or a Nami and a
I'd love to see Lucian here. I would love to see a
Lucian would be pretty good.
Yeah, there it is. That good old combo. Nami has lots of champions that she likes to be with, but none of them are so good as the Lucian. You want to talk about making sure that Draven thing doesn't happen again? Give him one hell of a dueling bot lane. This bot lane is notorious for being oppressive.
Yeah, Lucian Nami is basically Draven light, right? Like, you have the oppressiveness that Draven brings you, but you're still strong well into the mid game. Even with no kills, your lane presence is just oppressive. Not only that, your team fighting is really good with the ult combos, with the amount of damage that the Nami buff gives to Lucian for his double shot. The amount of damage that can come through is quite staggering. Meanwhile, on the side of ATO, they're going to elect Braum, which is excellent in my opinion into this matchup. I would have loved to see the Braum immediately. I love that they picked this immediately. It is excellent. And Nami can block her ultimate immediately with his shield wall along with the Lucian ultimate.
Yep. And I like the idea that they're going to be able to slow down what is right now essentially a very fast-moving comp. Viego, Lucian, a lot of movement, a lot of ability to reset things. You want to try and slow those champions wherever possible. And Braum gives them a lot of protection in that when you try and dive or invade this champion in any way, literally anything will stack his passive, so you have to be very careful getting tagged at all. It also means, too, that they can avoid some of these ultimates, like the Braum shield. Unbreakable is going to be great against Nami Wave and Lucian ultimate, so you can deny a lot of that setup, a lot of that CC, and just a straight-up damage for Lucian. So good draft adaptations, allergic to objectives. They are really trying to make their way back into the series. They've got one win, but they need another one to push us to best of 5.
Yes, sir. And now with the Ornn and Sion ban, it kind of signals that you want to play more of an aggressive top laner. I wonder if we're going to be seeing something along the lines of Zaheen, who has not been played nor banned this entire series and is available right now without any many tank top laners. Like, Mordekaiser's taken out, Nasus is taken out, Malphite's no longer available, Shen's no longer available. This is a prime Zaheen moment, and Besa also available. So really curious to see what we see being played by both sides in the top lane. Garen! Yes! I love Garen!
Garen going to be locked in, but that's potentially abusable. There are a number of champions I'm thinking of already that would like to be up there, specifically the Gnar, which would be really, really good into that Garen. Interesting to see what RGB want to pick up. There's also the ability to pick up something like the Aatrox or perhaps the Renekton. You can even try and play an Urgot if you wanted to into that Garen. We haven't seen one of those the entire series. So RGB, they kind of have their choice when it comes to that. And they're instead going to go for the Sins. They're going to max obnoxiousness with obnoxiousness. Sins, they're going to make this character, they're going to make it really, really hard for Allergic to Objective to lock down anybody. You want to try and lock the Sins down, you're going to have to chase them to the ends of the earth. RGB, they want to move fast, and they want to move quick.
Yeah, trigger the SpongeBob Foghorn. That is so disgusting. I hate that champion. Garen's not going to have any fun now. He's just going to have to solo clear these waves over and over again. It's going to be a total proxy fest in the top lane. And here's the thing about proxy lanes. I mean, they're cool and all, but it's so boring to watch.
I do love me a Fizz. I love the ability. Now, this is a massive departure here for Chicken because he has been on these control mages basically all day long in the first 3 of these games and has not had too much onus to make his own plays outside of that Cassiopeia. And now, I want to see if he has the confidence to make this work because Fizz is a feast or famine champion.
Go Galio, game's over. I'm telling you right now. If they pick Galio, this is so tough for RGB to do anything. Galio's such a good answer. Okay, they're going to go for the Ahri. That's okay as well. The movement allows you to avoid a lot of the Fizz damage. And so at that point, you're pretty much just solely trying to dive the backline in zones. But zones isn't really a backline, right? He's Kaisa. He's trying to dive your team. So it's this really awkward spot to be in, especially if you're piloting champions like Viego and Fizz, where you want to dive onto the backline of ATO, and they're just not there because they basically swap positions with you.
Yeah, they basically vacated that area, made it impossible for you to follow up. I will, to kind of pseudo answer that question, I think their goal is in that fighting is they don't want to. I think they want to keep the smallest pig just kind of permanently pushing in a side lane for someone to respond to him as he just passively farms minions. And then I think for RGB, like the only thing they want to do is they just want to run at you. They're not necessarily worried about setting up like super complicated fights. They're just going to kill the first person they can get their hands on. And because they're not really dealing with anybody too particularly tanky, like Ladarper is going to be about the strongest person armor wise on the team, unless Chubb really wants to index into survivability on that Xin Zhao, then you're really not going to have too much a hard time doing that. Your idea is just to blow everybody up. And I think if they're set up right, they'll have an easy time of doing that. Speaking of setup, we are set up on the Rift for Game 5. RGB still technically on match point. ATO trying to even up the series. They want to push this to a potential best of 5, and I think both have gotten a composition that they believe will get them to their objective. And as with anything, it comes down to execution. Oh, Smallest Pig did want to get some a little bit more damage on the Ladarper. This is the hard part about dealing with this Singe. Just, if you chase him, you're doomed. If you don't chase him, you're doomed. There's just no good way to deal with this. Oh, that guy's going to go Ladarper. May not be dead, though. In fact, it's going to be Smallest Pig. Yeah, you recalled that he was, in fact, dead. I thought for me you said Smallest Pig is dead. I was like, I don't think so. This is going to be very difficult. But, yeah, first blood going over to RGB.
Yeah, Light Arper not understanding the matchup quite well there. In the top lane, Garen does not really do well in the level 1. He has great burst damage with that Q silence, but unless you have the spin to win and the shield available, your damage mitigation is relatively nothing, and you aren't able to apply your Conqueror stacks quick enough. So in the 1v1, level 1, level 2, Light Arper actually will hard lose that matchup, especially if Smallest Pig is able to create some distance. Not only that, but he actually ends up forcing out the flash and the ignite.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out.
And Light Arper still doesn't get the kill, so that is just a brutal spot to be in if you're Light Arper piling this Garen, and hopefully he's able to turn that around.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part too, is like if you expend the ignite and then you get the kill, like okay, it's definitely worth it, even if I still die as Chicken. I'll come back to that in a second, but I think like for Smallest Pig, the fact that he got both of them with absolutely no return from the Garen is going to feel really good, and he's just going to continue to bull in the Darper here. The flip side of this though is I think Chicken, I really don't know how I feel about that Fizz. We've seen him really struggle the entirety of the day, even on control mages where he's just been consistently bullied by Professor Hex, and I think that hasn't been easy. Hold on though, fight in this jungle. That was what we talked about. The Braum is going to get the exhaust, and they're going to donate that kill over to Zoans. So 1 for 1 on the board right now, but that kill money going exactly where you'd like it to. Blue Sea getting punished already on that Viego.
Yeah, Viego going down, Zones going up. I mean, the kill onto the Kaisa is a very, very good thing indeed against this bot lane. You really don't want
Pig might die here. He doesn't have any mana. Lidarper will chase him out, so he's going to be able to retreat, but that looks sketchy there for a second.
Yeah, so basically how the matchup is going to work is as long as Smallest Pig has a small bit of distance between himself and Light Arper, he's pretty much always going to survive and be able to run away. Obviously, the Light Arper can't just chase him down through the smoke cloud, but not only that, but Light Arper doesn't have the item, I forgot what the name is at the time being, it's the Hydra item that slows. He's going to need that item in order to chase down Singe to begin with, and until he has that item, Singe should have the upper hand in this matchup, assuming that Light Arper doesn't just like sit in a bush, come out and kind of surprise him and do some nice little short trades.
Not chains. Are we talking? I'll remember what it is. It's the yeah, I know what you're talking about. Sorry, I was trying to think which one built into the slow.
The slowing Hydra item. That's what I call it. Yeah, once he gets that item, the matchup definitely turns into Garen's favor because Garen can actually start to run him down. And of course, combined with the ultimate, he has the true damage to be able to just nuke him, even though Smallest Pig might be building tanky. So until that actually happens, Light Arper will have a disadvantage in that lane. And so Smallest Pig taking advantage of that early on, almost nearly double his farm.
Yep. And we're already starting to see him get the proxy farm going. Has both of his movement speed abilities, so not necessarily under too much threat, at least there. Meanwhile, Chicken, already a massive amount of CS down. Shoop wanted to try and get, Blue Sea wanted to try and get on top of Shoop, but just not had the chance to do it. Yeah, I already disagreed with this pick for Chicken being on Fizz. I think this was an absolute mistake, and no disrespect to him, but I think that was inappropriate of them to choose that. I think it's been very clear that he has been at a deficit in this mid lane, and I think that this Fizz selection is just going to be feast or famine. Just famine, and they're going to be missing a lot of damage. This Chicken is really not going to have very many opportunities to get involved here, and I think that if they end up losing this game, I think they're going to look at that selection and say, okay, we probably should have chose something else.
Well, what we're taking into account is the fact that this is a Fearless tournament, and so Fearless does put your teams into an awkward position where they might be forced to first pick some champion that they're not relatively that's not relatively good to first pick, but maybe it's the only thing left that they're relatively comfortable on, right?
Sure. So and yeah, I can see that, but I would say like there were still many other options available for them that they didn't necessarily need to index into that Fizz. There were other champions they could have gone with that were still control mage style that weren't banned out. And so to me, to index in the Fizz, like I get that mentality of like you're trying to manage what you can with the Fearless draft, but I still think there were better options. I mean, that's 100%. Like ASO was available, wouldn't have been under too much threat there. Orianna was a great champion that they could have picked. They could have even looked to play something a little bit tankier in that mid lane if they wanted to. But in the meanwhile, though, ATO, they're going to get towards this bot side as Chicken is just going to drop to Professor Hex, continuing to get bullied. In the bot side, they'll be lucky to be alive as that gank not quite landing the way they wanted to. So wins. Got to be very slow. Blue Sea, this is his first kill. That's exactly what you wanted to see. Now the Viego getting involved. It's going to be 1-1. 1 for 1. So 2-2 on the board, and gold still relatively stable. Lucy's just going to make his way out of here and potentially go look at Dragon.
Yeah, so Chicken end up falling down there. Not only that, but he's getting Event Horizon in the mid lane. The farm lead's starting to become very, very insurmountable for the side of Professor Hex. Goes up 1.1k in that lane. Meanwhile, the top side going in the opposite direction. Smallest Pig almost building 1,000 gold lead because by virtue of collecting more minions and also proxying the wave. You're preventing minions from actually entering the lane, which means that the minions on RGB side end up collapsing against the tower. That's the whole point of the proxy to begin with. And I would like to see Light Arper actually proxy himself. He's electing into trying to face Smallest Pig 1v1, but Smallest Pig understands that he probably doesn't win it anymore once Garen actually hits level 6 or has level 7 now. So the proxy is the correct move, and I would like to see Light Arper answer in kind and maybe have Chubb come over with Professor Hex to kill, to get maybe a kill or two on Smallest Pig, because here's the thing, Chicken cannot push this mid wave. He's going to be scared that he'll be answered by Chubb or Professor Hex.
Well, and I think probably the only reason that Light Arper's not choosing to try and proxy farm that is knowing that Blue Sea is really, really quick across the map, and that if you do try that, you're absolutely just going to get killed, and it's worth it for Blue Sea to go and answer that. And like Smallest Pig can just point that out and prevent that from happening, as Smallest Pig just continuing to be a nuisance. So I think there will reach a point where Garen will start to consider it, especially if the towers are still up after, you know, like the 12 to 15 minute mark, where he's like, okay, I'm a little less worried about being run down. Like I can start to stack some of my damage on my armor items. But until that time, like I think especially with Lucy being active around the map, it's really not worth it for Light Arper to try and go in and do it.
100%. Whatever Garen's doing with his itemization, I hate it. I don't care what it is. I hate it. I think it's horrible. The Crit Cloak, Longsword, I don't know what he's building right now. I'm sure like it's just failing to escape me, but whatever he's building should not be building into this matchup. He needs to build the Hydra slowing item so he actually has a chance of killing the Singed. If he's choosing to not interact with Singed, that's fine, but then you just elect to still go into the item because of the wave clear it provides and the tankiness it also gives you. So I'm just not really sure what the idea is. I know that he wants to build Phantom Dancer eventually. That might kill him. He's lucky the Ignite ticks.
Nope, it's not going to tick over. Meanwhile, though, it does manage to kill him on the mean side, and meanwhile, bot side, this gank is absolutely going to be able to pick up the fish. They're going to try and trade for something, and that trade for something was in response to the Herald, so Blue Sea managed to get that one, but they are continuing to get stuff done on this bot side. And meanwhile, this Fizz, which is not going to be particularly useful for anything, is going to try and make something happen. You have a Blasting Wand and a Prayer, buddy. Let's see what you're going to do with this. Is going to be able to land the fish, but you really want to get on top of Zones. Not if you guys exhausted like that, and not before they kill Gaston. Zones is going to get ignited. The Fizz is going to get stunned. Zones are not going to drop. They get absolutely nothing done with that, and Chicken missing out big time. I don't want to harp on it too much, but this Fizz definitely not delivering the way that they needed to.
100%, and also Zones using the ultimate very well.
Entirely by Shoop. Here's Smallest Pig. He wants to try and see if he can get Zones. The only way they're going to do this is if the Cinch can manage to do it. He's going to try chase us underneath the tower. He will manage to get in the end. Will die to a turret shot, though. Chubb, meanwhile, going to clean up on the back end. So that was a lot invested to only get one kill. That's absolutely not worth. As Chicken are going to be forced to get underneath the turret. And ATO, they're starting to run away with this game again.
100%. This is looking like an absolute stomp in the early game for the side of ATO. And it's one of those things where, you know, now you're really questioning, hey, why did we pull down Smallest Pig? Because Smallest Pig goes down, ends up dying under tower. So it's a net loss for them by virtue of the fact that you're losing out on the topside wave. Yes, they send Lucian up top to catch that wave so that the Light Arper doesn't take too many plates, but that means that he's also missing out on his quest the entire time that he has to go up top and then run back down to his bot side like we see him doing now.
Yeah. In RGB, they're finding themselves in kind of the exact same situation that they found themselves last game, which is they're losing early and they're getting pulled across the map. And even despite how much Blue Sea is trying to do, really doesn't have much opportunity to get done yet. So he's going to try and find something. And Blinding Light, she's going to try and see if she can help Blue Sea get at least a little something going. But Lucian's still far off, and both of the members of the ATO bot side, they're going to start to back off.
Smallest Pig messing up the combo there. That being said, props off to Light Arper for getting that kill earlier in the top side. I know we kind of harped on it and moved past it. He is electing to get that early Phantom Dancer, which is going to allow you to space through minions a lot quicker. So you're
crazy ability and is unbreakable. That is insane that he just ate all of that ult damage. Sorry to interrupt, but that is just like, I mean, as long as that ability's up, like they're not under any threat.
Oh, 100%. Shoot, like Braum is the best counter to Nami Lucian that there is, and they didn't ban it. So I just like there's certain like picks that we've seen in this series where other things are left open. Like for instance, like last game, they pick Malphite, or they pick Malphite, but they don't ban Silas. Silas is immediately counterpicked afterward and ends up winning them the game. Right. One game later, they pick Lucian Nami, but don't ban Braum. And these are things that need to happen in Champ Select.
If he steals this would be another great steal. They're going to pull this over, so make this really, really difficult. He's going to ult over the wall. Can he manage to get it? No, does not. Sacrifice this live. Red team, red team, ATO, they're going to manage to take that one away. And I don't want to, like, I want to be careful kind of putting this out there, but right now, RGB, even after two really good games as the pause is going to come out, it kind of feels like they're getting a little bit desperate. Singed is now officially DC'd, so we'll have to wait for him to reconnect, and we'll keep you updated on what's going to happen there.
All good. And just for the viewers there who may not know this, there is a tournament rule in place for pauses. Each team is only allotted 15 minutes of pause time. I believe is it per series or per game?
I think it's per game.
Per game, so we will not be waiting more than 15 minutes for the pauses at any given time. That being said, let's talk about your comment towards RGB. I think it could be a massive result of champion fatigue. We are seeing us now get into game 4 of a fearless draft. You know, when everyone is always told when you want to climb, you need to main 2 or 3 champions max, right? 2 or 3 champions that you can play at that level to get you to climb. We're past that point, right? And not only that, but there's bans on top of it. So now we're getting into the champions that maybe you don't necessarily play all that often, maybe once a week. And that's where you start to see significant skill decreases over the course of the series. And it may be perhaps that RGB is getting pigeonholed in a way that they weren't prepared for. Maybe they thought they would win out the series 3 games, and now they're forced into an uncomfortable situation. Not only that, but Chubb being brought in for the side of ATO is giving them a massive advantage in that he's got a whole champion pool that really hasn't been explored yet.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that, and I think like that's one of the beauties of watching Fearless Draft is, you know, the mistakes that can induce and the challenges that come with that. You know, it's not just enough to continue drafting or banning the same champions over and over again. You have to remain flexible in what you know how to play. And so I think that highlights like insufficiencies in champion pool that makes it even worse. And like to your early point about Chicken maybe being forced to play things that he's not as familiar with, but at least, you know, sort of knows how to play. You know, I think it's an instance where if you know how to play other control mages, but only the ones that you've played so far and everything else is banned, then, you know, you're really looking at oh my god, I'm getting tongue-tied. You're looking at a serious deficiency, even while, hold on, though, on the bot side, Gaston going to try and bide a little bit of time, but not going to be getting much of anything. The bubble goes off just to buy a little bit of the space, but the fish is still going to be dead in that bot side. And that oppressive bot laning that we thought was going to be coming out from RGB is starting to fall apart. The solution is 0-1-1. Nami has been turned into sushi 3 consecutive times, and RGB not having a good time on the Rift right now.
Yeah. It should be stated, and I really think that it's deserved. Like, Chicken is not like necessarily playing this matchup badly, right? He's only 0-1, right? He's not like overly feeding this lane. He's not playing awfully. The problem, though, is that you first pick it without a jungler that actually can set you up for consistent kills in the mid lane. You're just setting yourself up for failure, because now you pick something like an Ahri where you're so slippery that Fizz really can't ever assassinate you in any instance, which means that now you're getting this massive farm lead, right? We see this 50 farm lead in the mid lane. And so by virtue of having this champion that you can't lock down as Fizz, and your side lanes are losing, I mean, obviously, there is a lead on your bot side, or sorry, on your no, there is no lead. Yeah, there's a lead on your top side. Sorry, there's a lead on your top side. But Garen is not the person that you necessarily want to be ganking all that often. It just is an awkward position to be in, and I really feel like maybe there was not, or maybe there was a lack of communication coming into phase 2, where they thought, hey, we can first pick this Fizz, and it's going to be fine because, Professor Hex only plays XX and X champion, and in reality, he pulls up Ari they weren't prepared for. But...
Well, he's going to get flashed on. Lidarp are going to try and knock him down. Yeah, that was never really his Herald to go for, so surprised that he's even trying to take that with the pressure that ATO has right now. As Chubb is just going to try and finish this off. He is going to smite it. Someone's going to go try and go over and grab that, I'm sure. Meanwhile, in the team fight, though, Singed really fast, but really no damage to follow that. He gets momentarily stunned up as Glacial Fish are going to come out, and a defensive Lucian Ultin just to buy a little space. Everyone walks away a little worse for wear, and the only person that really ends up dead is Chicken.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, to your point, like, I definitely think, like, yeah, you have a point in that the Fizz is not, like, it's not that he's feeding, but I think what makes it feel so bad is that you know that Fizz is one of those champions where you really needed to be getting a lot of kills. You needed to be proactive and roaming and setting up these massive teamfight opportunities, and that hasn't happened because he's been completely outclassed in the mid lane, and I think that's why, like, even picking the Fizz feels so bad. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute, this has been happening, like, all game long, and you haven't shown that you have the confidence really to win in the individual lane matchup. So if that's going to be the case, then why not try to index to something a little bit more utility-wise? Though I get the idea of, like, hey, like, the miscommunication of thinking that maybe they did have the draft set up for it, but I think in retrospect, like, clearly that hasn't happened, and so, I mean, they're going to need to make an adjustment in Game 5, because presumably that is what's going to happen. ATO with a 6.8 gold, 1,000 gold lead, 16 minutes into the game. They're, I think, arguably even farther ahead, just objective-wise than they were the last time. They've already got a Dragon, they've got the Herald. Yes, they missed out on the Dragon some grubs earlier, but they're in a really good position to win this game.
They're in a great position, and I just the only thing I can think of is it's just like inexcusable to first pick Fizz in any situation. You have to understand what you're playing the Fizz into before you can actually grab it. Because here's the thing: let's just say that Professor Hex had no slippery champions available, right? Didn't have Ari, doesn't have any of these champions that you're really that can really evade the Fizz. All you do is you index into a tank. You index into, like, Renekton mid.
Yeah.
And now Fizz can't do anything. Like, you index into, like, Renekton mid or Scion or something where the Fizz just will never get a kills 1v1, and it's effectively the exact same thing.
Well, I think you pick something even safer than that. Even if you want to stay towards mages, there were a ton of really safe mages that you could put out. Professor Hex, he wants to kill Lucy here. He's going to be able to do it. He's just ticking down. And this mid laner for ATO, who has been performing so well all series long, hasn't been rewarded for it up until now, and he's really starting to make his presence felt. Stroop, he's going to put forward the Herald here. This might be their opportunity to get a potential shutdown. Professor Hex, though, he's going to go into the Herald to prevent dying. That is a massive outplay. It looked like Chicken might be able to get something done, but not going to happen. Big-brained 5-head plays. He's playing 3D chess. Gaston, he's going to get ignited, throwing the entirety of the Lightbringer into this Garen. Will he actually fall? No, Garen will be able to get his way out of there. As he's going to pop the shielding. Fizz is going to get here. Okay, now Chicken will surely get his first kill, and in fact gets the shutdown. But that's a far cry from being able to get back into this game. He's going to have a long way to go if he wants to be even more effective.
Yeah, Garen electing to get the... I'm going to figure it out now what the item is. Stridebreaker. There it is.
Stridebreaker.
Garen electing to get the Stridebreaker second. I mean, that's fine, I guess. I would have rather seen it first. That being said,
massive find in the bot lane.
So much damage.
Yeah, Chubb just denied a lot of that damage that they wanted to put out, and is just going to completely walk away from that one.
Yeah, it is quite honestly, like, both exciting and curious as to how the state of the game is swapped from the first two games to the second two. You rarely see games like... Okay, so this is basically what I'm referring to. Game 1 and 2 was an early, mid, and late game. It's not a stomp, but, like, every lane was winning, right? Almost every lane, except for mid, was winning in Game 1 and 2. Game 3 and 4 is the exact opposite. That doesn't necessarily happen randomly. Like, you never see that happen where, like, the lanes themselves, all the laners just swap in terms of, like, how confident they are and how well they're playing on the day.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, the one thing that's been consistent lane-wise has been kind of, like, the top and the mid lane for ATO. Like, they've been good this whole series, but they haven't necessarily been able to make that kind of stick for them. But now we're starting to see that definitely come out, and I agree with your point. Like, it is very rare to just kind of see that momentum completely shifted, where it was clear that RGB, like, they wanted to play through top and bot, and now they're just not having the opportunity to do that. And on spawn, they're going to go ahead and take this Baron. This is very close to how it looked in game number 2, or sorry, game number 3, and I mean, with the way it's going right now, ATO, they've definitely moved us to Game 5. They're definitely moving us towards silver scrapes. So I think short of a miracle RGB, they're going to have to find some other way to win a potential Game 5. And I think the other thing is, too, is, like, you're looking at a reverse sweep. Like, they won the first 2 games. Now they're potentially looking at the losing these next 2 unless something really, really crazy happens, unless they can find a way to miraculously, turn this game around. They are looking for opportunities, but it's just not that easy. Smallest Pig, is going to throw out the trap, but there's nothing else to be found there. And so, mental-wise, like, you got to wonder, what does that do to RGB to know that you're potentially looking at get reverse swept in what is a full best-of-5 series?
Yeah, getting the potential of getting reverse swept will weigh on you. It will break your nerves, and especially if they are out of champions in terms of just having limited champion pools available for Game 5. It is really nerve-wracking. You realize that, like, hey, this ATO team is on fire. They've got the mental advantage at this point, realizing, hey, we've got nothing to lose. Let's just play our hearts out, play to our advantage, play to win, and we're going to end up pulling away with this series. And that's a hard task, a hard quest to complete on the side of RGB to actually fight against that. And we're seeing that in motion right now as ATO is building a bit of a comeback.
Yep, and they can start to put the final touches on that comeback if they can start to shove these waves in. Blue Sea being tracked the entire way. They know that Viego wants to try and get onto the squishier members and not going to give him the chance to do so. They're just going to slowly start to siege this out. They have Garen sieging in the mid lane. Chubb going to be potentially just stunned out there. That's going to be the chunk thrown on top of him, but no damage. Shoop just blocking so much damage. Smallest Pig is just really, really fast, but not really doing a whole lot. And yeah, the structures are going to start to fall. The health bars in a decent spot for both these teams right now. Professor Hex landing the charm. Smallest Pig manages to throw him back. That's the RA down the Darper. He's going to be trying to track for 2. Tries to summon the sword, but that's not enough. Chubb. What else is he? Is he the next one? Is going to get silenced. Thrown back into the turret. Now that's 3 dead for the side of ATO. No one dead for the side of RGB. ATO has to walk out, and that's a momentary reprieve for RGB, but they're going to need a few more of that before they're back in this game.
Yeah, it is a momentary reprieve, but I don't think it will amount to much in this game. It's Smallest Pig just walks straight into it.
Yeah, Zone's going to go on a rampage. Going to be happy to get that one. They'll take that one out before they channel the back. Zone's performing phenomenally. 6, 1, and 4 on that Kaisa, and putting a tremendous amount of damage. And then, again, another shout out to Professor Hex, who's been performing really well in all 4 games. This is a huge part of why ATO have been successful so far. With the next dragon spawning in a couple seconds, they're going to look to take this objective and put themselves to drag points. RGB, though, they're trying to take this one before ATO can get here. Pings are coming down. Plasma not yet stacked for Zones. He wants to try and see if he can stop this one. Gaston going to be able to grab out Binding Light. She is the sacrificial lamb for that one. They managed to claim the objective and to steal that one away, so they delay what is potentially the inevitable. But it's just a momentary reprieve. It's just grabbing some of that standing gold. This is ATO, they're hunting right now. They want to see if they can find anybody kind of lingering in this jungle right now. Chubb, once again on top of Chicken, forces out the flash. They Darper, along with Professor Hex, they can start to put the damage into this structure. Mid lane, they're going to lose that inhibitor tower. They start to shove in these waves. Teleport going to be channeled from Smallest Pig. Wasn't able to push out that wave much farther. Was maybe potentially trying to go grab turret plates off that top lane turret, but not going to happen. And crazy that.
Meanwhile,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, crazy that all the remaining structures are still available for ATO. They haven't lost any towers yet. In fact, barely even gave over any plates. Glacial Flizzure, going to buy a little bit of space. Chubb going to be knocked up for the Fizz ultimate. Want to try and get a little bit more, but the health bar still really, really strong. But they're starting to run out of minions. No longer have the Baron. And nothing to play for right now. So ATO, they need to be careful because they lost a team fight earlier on the top side. But that's one inhibitor down. They can look to go top side and potentially knock that one away. But the wave is too far, so they'll have to be a little bit more patient.
Yeah, absolute domination coming out from game 4 rather by ATO, able to keep all their structures intact. It just kind of shows you the amount of lane dominance that these each lane had throughout the game. I know that at the top side, Smallest Pig did technically win that lane out, but it's because he was proxying, and guess what? When you proxy, the thing that you don't actually end up getting much of are tower plates, because presumably so, the enemy top lane is going to be stopping the wave before it actually collapses against your tower, so you're pretty much just hoping that the only way advantage you get is by virtue of Lidarper missing CS, right? Well, that doesn't happen against Garen.
Lidarper, speaking of, he's going to try and land the ultimate, but he goes down. There, Miles Zones. He jumps in. The Seeker, Blue Sea, what can he do? He wants to try to get over top of zones. He's found a potential lone ADC. Blue Sea goes unstoppable, gets back over the wall. Zone's stacking that plasma, just way too much to deal with for the RGB jungler. Jumping in, got the blade. What else can he get? Ultimate channeled. It's only 3 alive to the side of RGB, and it's not their strongest members. It's ATO. They're going to start to shove these minion waves in.
Yeah, it's game.
Yeah, we're going to a game 5. Looking at Silver Scrapes as the Shark thrown down on top of the Braum, which is probably the least effective person you want to throw. Gets thrown into the turret. Shoop still managed to find a way to survive right now. Shutdown given over, but this is just cosmetic comeback as people are getting stunned, bopped, bipped, and dive. I'm going to get charmed up. That last tower is going to fall. The health bar is kind of low.
Gaston is up.
Oh, gets the majority of that damage blocked by a minion. Professor Hex lands the charm. This should just be the final damage coming through. All 5 dead for the side of RGB. And ATO, they done what we thought they might not be able to do earlier. They have evened this series up, and we are looking at Silver Scrapes.
See that they have as a team. Going into game 5, of course, both teams are going to be pretty much spent on what champions they have left and available to play. I suspect that we will be seeing some, pretty odd and unique picks into these lanes. I mean, hell, if we saw Garen top last lane, just imagine what we're going to see going into game 5.
Yep.
And I'm just excited for it.
This is what I want out of RGB. I want them to get the mid laner something that they can absolutely rely on. I don't want them picking anything crazy in round 1, round 2. I want them to protect their picks as much as possible. I'm fine with the Cho'Gath. It's a very conservative pick. Give them the chance. Give Chicken the chance to, kind of survive in the lane without needing too much help and without getting pushed so heavily. Give them something that can AoE farm and that's not so immobile. There's a plenty of champions that they can go to. And what I want out of Allergic Objective, I want you to keep doing exactly what you've been doing. I want you to keep being aggressive, picking these compositions that you're really, really comfortable with, daring to do the extreme. They say in the Art of War, he who dares wins. And Allergic Objective, they have had no problem with that. The Galio that we've been asking for, that Jarvan-Galio combo, that is another duo that we like to see a lot and has been around for a very long time.
Very long time, very easy to play, right? And it's just one of those things that you like to see this late in a Fearless series. Jarvan and Galio making it this far is quite surprising. I mean, at this point, once we get through the second phase of bans, there's going to have been 50 champions taken off the table. A lot
of champions.
And so for Galio to make it through, and same thing with Malzahar. We're seeing more standard picks coming up from both teams. I do expect that this game will be a little bit less volatile than the past two, given already with just these 4 picks alone. Malzahar, the champion that you hoped and wished for, essentially being picked here by the side of RGB. You love Malzahar, and hey, I bet you love that's in the hands of Chicken, something that is relatively straightforward. I won't say it's easy, but straightforward to pilot.
Yeah. Well, and here's what here's what I like about it as well. I like that not only is the Malzahar relatively safe, but also Galio is not the most threatening champ that you're having to lane against. So you're getting an easy champion to pilot. You're not under a tremendous amount of pressure, and as long as you don't get super aggressive with your positioning and just kind of play behind your minions and allow your DOT to do the work and manage your mana well, you shouldn't have to worry about the Jarvan and Galio all that much. And in fact, as long as you keep eyes on Galio, if he tries to go do anything stupid, you walk up and you ult him. You're not worried about killing him. You just don't want him joining the fight.
Yeah, exactly. And now, Orianna swap up. They're gonna put Galio top against the Cho'Gath.
Yep.
So Orianna actually has a great time into Malzahar. You're able to pop his bubble really easily, considering you can position the ball backwards. That will be a little bit hard to deal with after Malzahar. Meanwhile, topside Galio is completely fine trading into laning into Cho'Gath. The natural MR built into his kit means that you are going to be able to survive a lot of that poke. The knock-up E combo is not really going to affect you too much. Not only that, but you have perfect setup for Jarvan. Actually, speaking of which, Orianna Jarvan combo, we talked about it. The Orianna Galio Jarvan combo is even crazier. So I'm really liking the draft from the side of ATO.
Ski-daddle, ski-doodle, your comp has been abloodled. Jarvan, Galio, Orianna, that is very, very dangerous to try and deal with. That said, I think RGB is doing an okay job so far in this draft. I like that they're drafting some safety. I like that they're drafting some denial. I think the same goes for Cho'Gath. Even though you're not necessarily going to be in tremendous kill threat for the Galio, it's also a safe lane to be in. You can passively just kind of farm up. You can get your stacks. You're not really too worried about Galio messing you up all that much. This is with the assumption that Galio isn't some kind of weird support thing, which is a possibility. possibility, but I think I agree with you, Reed, that it is going to go towards the top side. And so for me, for RGB, what do you want to put with this Ezreal? You have a number of options. You can look for something like the Karma, the Seraphine. You can potentially look to, draft something a little bit more tanky, maybe a Thresh or a Pike if you want to go that way. Vayne, however, is going to be the selection there for Allergic to objectives. They are going to pick a relatively short-range ADC, but one that does a tremendous amount of damage if you don't manage it correctly.
100%, yeah. Vayne, short-range ADC. I wonder what they're going to pair that with in the bot side. I'm 100% assuming it's going to be in the bot lane. But Vayne, definitely one of those champions where it struggles a little bit throughout the early game. Seraphine against it is pretty tough, but Vayne, does have a little bit of a difficult time dealing with these pokey-style bot laners just because she's not really able to return any of the damage herself. But now we're going to see the jungler for the side of RGB. You have to assume, unless they pivot Cho'Gath into the jungle due to the Galio pick in the top side.
I agree. Question is now, what do they want to get in the jungle? Or could this be another flexi? Could the Cho'Gath go to the jungle? Because wouldn't that be something? Cho'Gath versus Jarvan. As it is going to be the Olaf. Oh, it's going to be the cleanse. The Cho'Gath is, in fact, going to go, I think, to the jungle. Kled versus that Galio top lane would be good. But they could still do Vayne Galio and drop something else into this top side.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is not over. We could be for one more sickening turn. Allergic to objectives. Did they want to put the Galio? Because that would also be good into the Seraphine and the Ezreal, being able to have some of that natural magic resist and providing some support with the Vayne plus the Jarvan and Ori if it comes down there. Do we get one more final nasty twist in this? And we do! It's going to be a Galio support set top lane into the Kled. Oh, do I love draft. Both teams trying to throw each other for loops. With the amount of safety, I mean, look at this. This is 3 meatballs to protect 2 damage carries. Obviously, now the one issue that I think we haven't brought up is that potentially, if Professor Hex and zones go down, that's a lot of damage missing because that's really not going to be the main damage threat on this team. So if you can manage to pop those 2, then it gets a lot easier, but that is definitely easier said than done. Ori and Vayne, really, really difficult to try to get on top of. It's very difficult to lock them down, and they're doing a tremendous amount of return damage, so even if you are landing your own, you're potentially risking getting killed. And also, they've both been playing spectacular, especially Zones in that last game. Really, really showed what he had on that Kai'Sa, and I think over the last couple of games, really through the whole series, been good, but just hasn't necessarily had the same opportunities because of some of those game states. And so now for RGB, you have a lot of questions that you have to answer with this composition as we are on the Rift for the final game of this series, the Purple Division Grand Finals. Will it be the complete reverse sweep for ATO, where RGB put a stop to it and right the wrongs and recover? Well, the one way to find out. This is it. This is essentially a best of 1, Black Mage.
Yes, sir. It's the final game of the series. Glad to see that the set did go the full 5 games. It really does show that these teams are capable of going the distance with each other, that they are in a similar bracket to one another, obviously showing that the division is working as intended. That being said, I am so curious to see if Chubb and Professor Hex are going to be able to take advantage of the immobility that is present with a champion like Malzahar. Meanwhile, topside Light Harper getting some damage on Smallest Pig, but taking even more in return.
Yeah, but he always has that remount, so is deceptive exactly how much health he has lost. And, Light Hyper can have to be very, very careful how much he wants to fight. This does have the Ignite, though. They both do, so they both really, really want to be aggressive in that lane. Question for me is, when will the junglers get involved? Sones and Shoop, though, getting pushed underneath this turret for right now. Chickens already not doing too terrible of a job. Light Harper on a rope. One more auto would do it. They trade each other underneath the turret, but first blood goes to Smallest Pig. He's going to be happy about that one. Flash and Ignite expended for both of the top laners, and now they should both be juicy targets for their junglers to come and get involved.
100%. First Blood has been buffed. Gives you 400 gold now, so there's automatically looking like a 200 gold lead just based off of First Blood alone, even though that Light Harper got the kill. Still gets a 200 gold lead on the side of Smallest Pig. The difference of the 76 gold comes from the minion difference mostly, given that he has 12 versus 3. Not only that, the wave collapsed, so we might see a slight EXP advantage in the side of Smallest Pig, considering he died second. It'll be very negligible though, if anything. And if you're Smallest Pig, you are very happy to take that trade.
Yep. Chicken needs to be very careful as Chup making his way through this jungle. He is going to be able to pick up both scuttles, so Bluesy will be not so happy to lose out on those, but we'll have another opportunity at least to get them one of the respawns. But it does mean he's going to try and sneak his way into this brush. Now, he needs to be very careful how much time he spends just kind of waiting here because... yeah, Chubb's not going to be waiting around to do the farming, and he's going to enjoy not only getting extra Scuttle Crab, but he's going to go clear the next rotation of his topside camps. And we're going to see the recall from Bluesy. He's going to also go topside and look to get the next round of his camps. Question is, which of these junglers wants to get involved first here in this topside? This Chicken.
Yeah.
He's already starting to run out of mana.
Is there a specific...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you first.
Well, I don't know. What were you going to say?
Is there a specific reason why Jarvan is so far ahead in CS? Did he take camps that I did not spoke?
He got both scuttles, and he's already done he's already doing the second rotation of his topside camps. So he went and got
interesting.
Yeah, so he's doing pretty good right now. He's working really, really fast across the rift. And Bluesy's only just not getting out there. Bluesy also spent a little bit of time just kind of hanging out in that bot side for a minute just to see if they would step up. But I think that was kind of a bit of a wasted effort because there was never a chance where Zones and Shoop were going to walk forward. They were permanently pushed underneath their turret. Ping's coming down on top of Bluesy, so they know that he's waiting around in the area.
Yeah, spotted up on that ward on the top side. That's gonna hurt him a little bit more. Now he's gonna have to path back down towards the top of his jungle. It's gonna be slow to respawn and start. Oh, he's not even pathing. Looks like he's trying to path mid.
Yeah, he's
he's gonna go back towards the camp.
He's just gonna go back towards his wolf camp. But what this does mean though is that this should just be free dragon access to ATO. Ladarpa was ignited again. Did manage to land the punch. It's a lot of damage. That always does more than you think he does. And Chicken just waiting around here. Not sure if he sees the Galio yet. Ping's coming down. They want to potentially make a play here. Jarvan waiting in the wings. Is going to dash forward. That was what they needed. They landed the ult from the Orianna, and that is a quick kill onto Chicken. 3 involved potentially, but it was just going to be the Galio and the Orianna there. Shockwave doing a tremendous amount of damage. Meanwhile, though, Gaston and Blinding Light, they will be able to get some more of this turret plates down, but Galio, Jarvan running in the way. They need to make their way out of here.
Yeah, the Malzahar ultimate immediately getting negated there. The damage still lands, which is part of the kit, but the Galio Roam, Shoop has been doing it all day today.
Ooh, flag drag into the taunt from Shoop. Gaston going to be the next to fall. Blinding Light trying to see if he can get out of here. Bluesy going to land a knockup. What else can he do? It's 1v3 realistically. Doesn't have a lot to work with. Is trying to land the Empowered Ease. Blinding Light gets killed, but it's a trade double, though, for Zones. That Vayne going to be really, really happy. 2-1 at a CS deficit, though, so needed to get something going there. Chubb, he's going to get knocked up. Doesn't really have the right to go for this dragon just yet.
Yeah, 2-1 in a lane where you're getting massively outranged and outpoked just feels so good. Chubb, recognizing that they had an opportunity there, quickly takes advantage of it, and hey, and that's Zone's 2 kills.
Yep. One thing going well for RGB right now is the fact that they have Smalls pick up of that top side, at least kind of passively out-CSing the set, but that's really kind of a consolation prize right now with the way things have been going. Is a Chicken just trying to passively maintain his ability to farm in this lane. And trying to manage his mana a little bit better, but once you kind of start, once you're down a certain number of CS against another control mates, like it's just going to be that way for a while. So.
Yeah, and once Smallest Pig amasses a little bit more of a CS lead, once he gets a bit more of an item advantage, I do imagine that we will start to see Bluesy starting to prep towards the top, or path towards the top side. There becomes a certain point where you actually do want to just start diving this guy over and over when he starts getting behind, because Kled is one of those champions that is actually really safe to dive with by virtue of the remount.
Well, and I think for RGB, as long as he can be left up there with more time to just kind of farm and passively bully out the set and some of these trades, I think the better they'll feel. Obviously, there's still a long way to go in this game. It's only 2 kills to 4, but you know, they need to find some way to get some sort of priority in these lanes as Smallest Pig gets the Conqueror stacked.
Oh, that's going to result in a kill right now. Unless he can get
flash forward. Managed to pull it back, but not far enough beneath the turret to kill Smallest Pig. Walks away with the solo kill. Even got the flash and the ult out of the set. Feeling pretty good for him. That's the one.
Yeah, watch Blue Sea. He's going to stick around that top side. I'm telling you right now, the play should be Blue Sea stay up top side. We're going to collapse the wave, and we're going to kill him when he makes his way back and keep him off the wave. They do have a ward there, but okay, Blue Sea's going to elect to go back towards the grubs and probably will take those instead.
Chubb trying to get something going down to that bot side, but sacrifices his health bar to do it. Didn't really force out any summoners because there weren't any to force for the side of Gaston and Blinding Light, so they will continue to maintain their dominance. It's more than 20 CS difference in that bot side, so even despite the kills, Ezreal's still doing really, really well. And I think that's another point for RGB. Like, if you can kind of just slow the game down a little bit more and give Ezreal time, he's going to become a menace in these team fights. Like, you have things going really, really well. On the top side, you've got grubs. So, I mean, this game is definitely not outside their reach to win. It's just, I'd like to see them give Chicken a little bit more help. Like, you need to do something to get this Orianna.
Watch mid.
Yep. Here comes Blue Sea. Now, Professor Hex has literally everything he needs to get out, and I don't think they're going to try and make a play just yet. Chicken would kind of have to get in range to do something, and yeah, just 30 CS down, just getting constantly bullied in this lane.
Is that pink ward just so that he can spot out Blue Sea if you were to come up behind him?
Which one?
There's a pink ward in the middle of in the middle of mid
Oh,
lane.
yeah, towards that jungle entrance. I'm not sure. I'm willing to bet that was a fat finger.
Yeah.
That's a really weird. Yeah, that's a weird place because like that's really not an angle that Blue Sea would come from. So I suspect that he just accidentally placed that, and he'll look to replace that as soon as he goes back to base again, which will likely be soon.
Most likely it is a fat finger, but I actually feel like
this is what they need. Blue Sea, he needs to immediately get the knockup. Flash out for Professor Hex. Yeah, they messed up that combination a little bit. It's the Shockwave traded in return Chubb here to provide Professor Hex just a little bit of safety. They messed up that execution a little bit. That should have been a kill if they were able to get that knockup, but not quite in range.
Yeah,
I think Chicken went a little too early. I think is the problem there. I think he could have waited just a couple seconds more, and then Blue Sea would have actually had a chance to get there. So
definitely,
I think that's an execution thing more on the mid laner.
Smallest pick is mid lane.
Yeah, and that's going to be called off as soon as it began. It's like, oh, wait a minute, the Shoop's here. If there's a Galio, I'm not doing this.
You know what it was? It was that pink ward. It spotted him out. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that pink ward gave him the extra safety he needed. That pink ward's doing work. They can't say it wasn't the pink ward.
You can't say it wasn't. Meanwhile, on the top side, yeah, there's a 1.1k advantage going over the side of Kled. He's got the Ravenous Hydra built, or Profane Hydra rather, that's just going to allow him to do a ton of burst damage over onto the set, electing to take a Tiamat himself, so still no armor to prevent any of this damage from coming through. If I'm on RGB, if I'm smallest pig, I am screaming at Blue Sea to just camp topside. You just gank this guy over and over again, and there's really no recourse that he'll have.
Well, you know what's about to happen, too, is Chubb's going to start working his way up here because he's seeing exactly how this matchup is going. The CS differential, about 19 up there, not the worst, but definitely you'd like to get this set out of this potential position. So he's going to start working on his topside camps. I think it's going to depend on how aggressive smallest pig starts to get up there. If he can not attract too much attention while the Jarvan is there, then potentially he leaves, he'll have an opportunity to make some plays. But Jarvan going to hover around there at least just for a little while.
Yeah, Jarvan we should see start, or not Jarvan rather. I do think on the other side of the map, I do expect that Shoop will start to roam a little bit more than he has been recently. You do want to eventually start giving your AD carry a little bit more EXP. Vayne should be able to dodge by virtue of the roll out of the stun that comes from the double E from Binding Light. And at that point, it becomes really scary because Jarvan starts roaming around with the threat.
This might be what they needed. That flash was expended earlier. Now they can start to knock down this Orianna. That's exactly what they needed to bail Chicken out of this lane. And now they're going to get a little bit of alone time with that turret. But here comes the Jarvan. No help right now. He wants to wait and see how long Malzahar stays. The ping's coming down. Chicken kind of wanted to clear away the ward. He's not really under too much threat right now. Flag, drag, the Galio coming in. Manages to flash out. No further follow-up. The taunt's not going to land either. That's Cataclysm fairly close to the turret. Will he manage to live? Unstoppable going to be accessed by the Clan, and Chubb bit off way more than he could do. Chicken just happy to get out with his life, and pings immediately down onto the dragon. No jungler to contest them.
I'll tell you what. He was almost baited by the elite ward planted in that mid lane. He almost stood around
The ward almost got a kill. The ward almost got a kill.
Yo, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. This
Here
is
comes
actually
Ori.
just such a goated pick.
Oh, hold on. Here we go. Potential fight in this river. Professor Hex didn't have a chance to use that shockwave the last time and would like to make up for it, but the Dragon is going to go the way of RGB, but they haven't gotten the way out. Gaston potentially stunned over, wants to try and land a little bit more damage, needs to get away, charmed over the wall. Gaston will make his way out. He gets the right to live, but only barely. RGB holding on to this fragile lead, but they do still have it.
100%. They do still have the lead and looking a little bit volatile there for a second, but I do expect that RGB will continue to carry this going into the mid game. Their top side is one of their most stable picks. He's got already built up into another armor pen item, so he's going to start absolutely clapping the oh my gosh, the set. Thank you.
Yeah.
The set by virtue of the fact that he's got no armor built.
Yep. And Lydia, he's going to be a little bit vulnerable in his top lane for a little while longer. The Kled has kind of gotten basically access to do whatever he wants in this top side. And until someone comes up there and dissuades him from that, it will remain that way as the Malignant's going to be completed there for Chicken, so he'll be very happy to have that item completed. It also gives him much faster ult, helps him with locking down more of these members, so he can use that way more often. Expect the next item for him to be like either a Blackfire Torch or a Leandry's, just to have that passive burning damage, which will be really good in these team fights. And Malzahar is one of those champions, like, it's deceptive. In the beginning, he doesn't really hurt a lot, but then as he gets to farm up quite a bit, he becomes a way more scary champion.
100% becomes a lot more scary, a lot harder to deal with. He's able to lock down your team, and there's not much you can do about it. That being said, there is a lot of answers.
Ooh, didn't get the punch,
end.
And yeah, that's going to be the Ignite going down. Wants to try and use the ult to go unstoppable, but just one more blast with the shotgun. Get a smallest pick, get another kill. Didn't even have to burn the flash to potentially get away from anything. There's no jungler up there yet, and if you're Chubb, do you even want to try and go up there and make something happen? He's coming down. Blue Sea, he wants to go interfere with this Jarvan. They might try and look to turn on him. Uh-oh, Chubb. Oh, yeah, that knockup's not going to land, so Chubb knows that he's in a little bit of danger. This is going to force out the ult from the Orianna. Blue Sea now needs to try and find his way out from underneath this turret. Cataclysm committed, but Chicken is also here. Chubb dying underneath potentially his turret right now. Ultimate going to be committed. That will be the Ori dead. Smallest Pig continuing to put damage to the turret. Professor Hex just wants to try and get away. Has the phase rush temporarily, but that's not enough space. Flash for Flash. Chicken should be able to finish this off. He knows where the Ori is. Oh, Professor Hex, though, doing a really good job at landing those Qs back and forth. Passive damage. Just needs to land an E in another silence. And yep, going to get it a double kill for Chicken. He's going to be very happy about that 2-1-2 on the top side play.
Yeah, doing an excellent job on the side on the top side there. Smallest Pig getting an even bigger lead. Now it's up to 472 gold for the shutdown. And also elects into the Serpent's Fang, so even once Light Arbor gets that shield built up from the grip, he's going to instantly kill it.
Yep. Yeah, no steel shield stacking around out of here. We die like men. If you want to live, you're going to have to fight for it. And I'm starting to feel really good about this RGB comp. The things that we said they needed to do, the effort that they needed to make, they have started to accomplish those things. Chicken will slowly begin to recover as he has access to more and more minions without being under threat, is slowly picking up some of that turret plate gold. Is getting pinged here. Chubb might potentially be looking for something. This would have to be an aggressive play for Shoop to kind of follow up on that. Herald is available. Ping's going down on top of it. This should just be RGB's objective so long as they can protect the mid lane. And Black Range, I'm starting to feel a lot better about RGB's chance in this series of potentially ending it.
100%. Picking up where they last left off in those first two games and really showing ATO what they're made of. Hey, they may have given ATO a chance here, but they're looking to close it out as they planned originally.
A bit of an aggressive play.
Yeah, and it's through something that we didn't really expect. We've got Chicken actually playing very well in the mid lane here, despite going down farm. He's only down
Clear the wave. Managed to dodge the taunt. Is going to go underneath the turret. Maybe he'll be able to take somebody with him. No, it's just going to be donated over to zones. But at least he did a really good job in trying to clear that wave so they won't be able to get too much more out of that tower. I think was always going to die at that point once he stayed. So either needed to leave or just understood that he was going to die. Professor Hex. Oh, it's going to get rooted. That's going to be the Arcane Barrage knocking him down. They're trading for something. Gaston going to be very happy with that kill. Oh, blinding light.
100%.
Chubb. forcing out the flash. That's going to be the ultimate committed. Lucy is here now. Shoop wants to try and get involved. It's going to be a trade with the support, but the jungler's going to get devoured. Oh, the redirect. Smallest Pig managed to get on top of the Galio. Shoop wants to try and walk away, but they're between turrets. He's the next to drop. Ledgear only here to just watch him fall. Galio dead and down for the count, and this jungler being dead means that this next dragon is absolutely free. Ooh, Blackmage, I'm sensing a comeback. What a tragedy it would be for ATO going down like this after they put up such a valiant effort. The reverse sweep only to fumble at the very end. They got Silver Scrapes, so that should just mean they win, right?
Yeah, you would expect them to be able to win through this fight, but what ends up happening is or through this game, but what ended up happening is that RGB just drafted very simply. They said to themselves, hey, look, we'll just put Chicken on something relatively simple, something that has some lockdown potential. Blue Sea on this AP Cho'Gath is just doing so much true damage in the fight by virtue of the ultimate. Not only that, but Smallest finally put on a pick where he can really take advantage of this top laner, and I truly think that he picked it at an opportune moment where the set was the only thing that Light Arbor had left in the tank, and Smallest Pig really showing us why he picked this in the first place.
Well, and the reason I'm really happy that they went with that Malzahar is because unlike that Fizz pick, no matter what, Malzahar ultimate is useful. Even if you're not doing damage, the ability to lock somebody out of a fight and let everybody else focus them is of incredible value. And like, again, like we said, a couple times earlier, like Chicken, with the ability to access minions in a solo lane where he's not under a tremendous amount of threat, he's going to catch up. He's going to start to do damage. Malzahar scales incredibly well into the late game. And so I'm really happy with that draft adaptation for RGB. Chicken doing much better, especially now that he's got a couple kills under his belt. He's not really being pressured too heavily, can just kind of hold on to this lane. He doesn't need to win it. He just needs to hold on to it.
100%, and he's doing a good job of that. He's able to mitigate this bot side, just making sure that the wave doesn't get pushed. They still keep that bot tower nice and healthy. That being said, has a tower been taken by
None
ATO?
Yet. Nope, not a single tower yet.
So it's pretty much a repeat of what happened in the past two games.
Now this mid turret might be going down. Shoop trying to get underneath the turret, but may be paying for the sin. Meanwhile, Professor Hex left all alone on his lonesome with... Oh, sorry, as I almost choked with the Kled, and now they're trying to get a full team fight in earnest. Lucy still claiming to do it so much damage, and that's yet another silence. It's a 1-for-1 trade there between the Kled and the set. Oh, but RGB, they're absolutely control this game right now as Malzahar eventually worked his way over there, and they're going to summon up this Herald. They're going to move straight into the topside jungle and see what else they can get. Huge play by RGB in a fight that started off with Galio trying to chase the turret. They're just going to go straight to Baron.
They're going to go straight to Baron, and I think if you're Chubb, you have to basically give this up. And
do you even know that this is happening? I think is the question. Do you even suspect this could be going on? Yeah,
they
do.
They
see a ward.
It.
Oh, Chicken. Yeah, he's going to prevent stuff from going in there. They're going to kill the jungle, not even risk the potential smite fight. Is the final damage. Blinding Light going to throw out the final auto that gets that one. Ooh, but here comes Professor Hex. He wants to land a 4-man shockwave if he can get it. He wants to channel the Faker, but a smite and a eat will prevent that from happening. He gets silenced, and now they're going to work their way out of here. Teleport expended. Smallest Pig doesn't have access to the ultimate yet, but they might be able to knock down some of these. Remember, Zones trying to channel the barrier just to get a little bit of survivability, but Smallest Pig channels the flash, and he gets it, and now they're going to start to siege in this mid-turret. RGB, they want to right the wrongs from the Lions 2 games. Blackmage, they're starting to do it.
RGB is set up to absolutely stomp on the reverse sweep possibility and put an end to ATO's dreams of coming back in this series. They're now settled up at a nice little 8K gold lead at only 21 minutes. It's absolutely disgusting, and it's mirroring the games that just happened just previously with ATO. They're managing to turn it back around.
Absolutely. I just want to point out that the Professor Hex was looking for a shockwave right there underneath the turret, and it absolutely just completely whiffed so much that it didn't even look like that ability went off. I actually had to check the portrait just to make sure I was right. And, yeah, I was trying to look for a particular angle there, but didn't manage to get anything. So it's a little unfortunate for ATO. And, yeah, I mean, to kind of expand on your point, like, the fact that ATO have fought so hard to get back in this series, and RGB, who are doing a really good job in executing on their composition, who have adjusted for some of the problems that they've had over the last 2 games, what a heartbreak it would be for ATO. But, you know, that's the story of League of Legends, is sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And while ATO is certainly not out of this game yet, they are going to have a really difficult time. It is an 8,000 gold lead at 22 minutes, almost 10. They're getting really close to it. They can start to siege these towers. Blackmage, ATO, how do they get back in this?
They're going to have to slow the game down to a crawl. They need Orianna and the Vayne to start coming online with 1 or 2 more items. If they can get a nice engage with Chubb and Galio onto possibly Chicken and Gaston at around the same time, then maybe, just maybe, Vayne can do what's necessary to actually pin the team down and start getting some chain kills. Meanwhile, Light Arper has to really focus on Blue Sea's location. Light Arper's only...
Coming down on smallest pick. Sorry, they're looking to potentially pick this Bud. They want to try and get in front of him, make sure that he can't ulti his way out of him. He's going to try and go the opposite direction. Goes unstoppable. They manage to stand in front of him, but he's doing a tremendous amount of damage, but is going to get CC'd up and will be dead in the end. They do have to commit a lot to get it, though. They had to commit 2 ultimates. And in the meantime, RGB, they're going to pick up their 3rd dragon of the game.
They pick up 3rd dragon. I think if you're on the side of ATO, you're more than happy to take that trade by virtue of the fact that you just need to stop the bleeding in some way, shape, or form. This is going to allow Set to probably get some plates on the top side, unless the bot lane from the side of RGB can rotate and stop him. But it looks like they're more busy with trying to track down Chubb, who's eventually going to be able to get out of here. What I was trying to say earlier is Light Arper really needs to be paying attention to where Blue Sea is at all given times. If Light Arper lands a really good ultimate on this massive Cho'Gath onto the rest of the team, he's going to be able to do massive amounts of damage with it. Not only that, but he actually might be able to...
Does a lot of damage, and Light Arper's just going to die on that top side. Great job by Chicken.
Yeah, it ends up taking him out before Light Arper could even get the tower down.
Yep. These structures
all 3 tier 1 towers still up.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. I mean, we talked about it before, but the amount of safety that provides you to move across the map, it's always this bastion you can retreat to. And I mean, and we saw a concerted effort from ATO to try and knock down that mid turret to at least give them some flexibility, but that has yet not necessarily worked. And in fact, it went disastrous because they dove underneath the tower where they probably shouldn't have been. And so RGB, it's all about continuing to do what they have been doing. Continue to play it methodically. Don't get over your head. Just continue to focus on members like they have. But also, maybe start to play with a little bit of sense of urgency, because what you don't want is to give time for ATO to continue to scale. You don't want Vayne to become this vicious team-fighting monster. You don't want Professor Hex to really start to finish the rest of his build in a way that's going to decimate the rest of your team. So they are a little bit on a timer. They don't have the same reliable scaling. Blue Sea, obviously, as the Cho'Gath, will continue to infinitely scale to a certain degree, and so will Ezreal in terms of becoming an incredible team fighter. But they are a little bit on the timer in the sense that you don't want Ori and Vayne becoming as monstrous as they can be.
Yeah, once Vayne gets to that 3rd and 4th item, she can be a real problem in this game. She can pretty much 1 to 3 shot the squishier members of RGB, such as Binding Light or Gaston, and at that point it is a little bit tougher to win those fights because a lot of your damage has been taken out. That being said, Smallest Pig and Blue Sea more than able to do plenty of damage on their own, so it's really going to have to be a continuous preparation for any team fight that's faced in the future by the side of ATO. And speaking of which, Blue Sea is just hunting him down. Is probably going to nom onto the... Nope, he's able to get away.
Try to go back in, is denying some of the magic damage, but this is just a really, really long fight in this bot side. Malzahar going to start to teleport. They want to start to knock down this bot lane structure. The health bar is just starting to get super, super low for ATO, but they are trying to hold on to any of these structures that they can, but it is just not really working out for them. Baron going to be spawning at about 40 seconds. They would like to knock down this bot lane tower to give them just a little bit of threat and get some extra gold, but they will need to soon make their way out of there. Shupa and Professor Hex getting really, really low. Was the Shockwave not available yet for the Orianna, and yeah, Blue Sea doing a really, really good job zoning off anyone else from coming over through that angle to try and stop them. So one more minion wave should just do it. They're going to be spawning in 20 seconds, and RGB, they need to be careful. They don't want to die before this objective. They need to make sure they don't get caught.
Yeah, they just need to play this a little bit slow and methodical. Make sure they get this tower and easy peasy. Don't stack for the Ori ball. Should be good to go. That being said, they're able to get it down, and now it looks like they're starting to maneuver backwards, maybe possibly set up some vision for the dragon that's spawning. That being said, Baron up and ready for the taking. I wonder if ATO recognizes that they might need to trade this.
Yeah, they're gonna, I think, gonna go try and stop the Baron from happening. They're trying to get aggressive vision to see if they can look for a pick here, I'm sure, because they want to set something up. They don't want to let this go, but they know they're not really in a position to fight it. So the only way that they can potentially be in a place to contend for this is that they have to make the fight uneven. But that's really, really difficult. Flash forward, not necessarily a lot of follow-up right now. The Galio, though, wants to get something done that's going to be the unstoppable use, and they're just going to charge straight towards the mid lane. Blue Lucy going to land the knockup on top of the Orianna. They want to try and focus this Cho'Gath, but absolutely no chance as the Orianna just going to get devoured. Lucy doing so much work. It's a double kill for the Cho'Gath and flashed over the wall from the Kled. Shoop left with absolutely nowhere to go. Set and Vayne will be forced to guard duty just to remain to try and push out some of these waves and hope that they can delay the taking of the base. They're on a ward. They know that this is happening, but this Baron is absolutely going the way of RGB, and presumably they're going to run down and grab the dragon as soon as it spawns as well.
Yeah, they should be able to go down and grab that dragon, no problem. It's up in 20 seconds. It's just enough time for them to run down there. Meanwhile, Vayne trying to clear this mid wave is not going to result in anything. He's going to have to be pushed back off. Is going to make his way towards that bot side. Meanwhile, the rest of RGB making their way down to that dragon as you predicted. They're going to be able to take this without any issues, and that's going to be Dragon Soul for the side of RGB, looking scarier and scarier as the minutes pass, and we are nearing a 12,000 gold lead at 28 minutes.
Absolutely. RGB, they have... They've done well to recover. A lot of other teams with a lesser mental would have just kind of mental boomed at the thought of being reverse swept and having to come into a very difficult game, especially some of the difficulties they've had in the last two games. But massive respect to the entirety of RGB and being proactive and getting back in this game. They have performed really well in this composition. And ATO, I mean, massive respect to them to even get the position to get to a Game 5, but they've got a lot of work to do if they even want to try and hold out for here. The major buffs have been collected. It is Dragon Soul permanently on the side of RGB. They're going to have that passive movement speed, which will help them with his engagements, plus Baron for at least the next couple of minutes. And for ATO, I mean, Black Means, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Give me the miracle play. What gets them back into this? What do they need to do to potentially extend this game?
They're going to have to get some kind of miracle play onto 2 or 3 members of the side of RGB. You cannot just kill one member and expect to still win the fight. You've got to be grabbing multiple members. Chubb, I want to see ulting on to at least Chicken and Gaston, or Gaston and Binding Light, and then they immediately have to be followed up by Professor Hex's ultimate. If that happens and you're able to knock down those two quite quickly, then maybe, just maybe, you stand a chance.
We'll see if they're going to be able to do it. Shoop, meanwhile, on the opposite side of this map, just going to start to get chunked out. He's tanky, but not that tanky. Binding Light going to be the one to actually pick that up, just with that circumstantial damage, probably with the empowered Q. And now this is going to be the Kled ultimate thrown on top of everything. This is their final run. Chubb just trying to get to safety underneath the turret, but he's going to be pursued. It's 3, 4, 5, 6 dead. This series is over. RGB, after winning the first 2 games and looking like they were going to be reverse swept, they fixed the mistakes of the past 2 games. They're going to knock down the final turrets. They're going to put the damage in the Nexus, and they're going to be the Purple Division champions. They did what they needed to do, and they will be so richly rewarded.
Excellent job by RGB. Congratulations to them. Reese and Gaston's Blue Farm Animals for taking the finals and winning it all in an awesome best-of-5 series that went the full distance. We saw the Silver Scrapes there. It was an excellent game by both teams, and at the end of the day, RGB pulling out the win.
We wanted to grab you in because we felt like your performance was phenomenal throughout the entirety of the series. So how are you feeling as the champion?
Well, thank you for that. I'm feeling like really great because I think our team just worked so well together. There wasn't a moment in time where we were like giving up or we were tilted. It's just like we were constantly just in sync and we were making great calls throughout the whole time. And I think every single person on our team put on an incredible show.
Absolutely.
Like, real quick, before we continue on, Horizon, are we trying to have this streamed?
It is streamed, is it not?
We're still on the Be Right Back.
Are we? I don't think so. No, we're on the caster screen.
I'm watching Discord loading screen. I'm on Twitch right now. It's still on Be Right
That's
Back.
because there's a 2-minute delay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's because there's a 2-minute
My
delay.
mistake.
All right, so tell us, the question I have is how was the mental when you guys kind of dropped those 2 games? It looked like y'all were about to get reverse swept because those 2 games were really, really aggressively against y'all.
Oh yeah, that's a valid question. I think we were getting really like cocky after that second win.
Mm-hmm.
So going into it, we were like, oh, we should be fine, you know. So we're just like having fun, joking around. But after that second loss, and we realized that the potential to be reverse swept was real, we were all like just lock in, just clear comms and just win this right now and just end it all right there. Grand final, game 5, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anyone on your team that necessarily has some experience in the tournament setting that maybe was able to stick your nerves together and kind of keep you well grounded going into that game 5?
Yeah, I'd say for sure, smallest pig. He's just generally been our team leader. He's keeping us grounded. He's guiding all these champ selects. Like, he's just making sure we're all level-headed and we're just focusing on the win.
Awesome. I have been given word that Gaston and Reese are going to be pulled in here.
Yeah, go ahead and grab them because we need to be quick because we got the best of 5. We're already late.
Sounds good. I will grab them and pull them in. Thank you so much for Blue. Appreciate your interview, and best of luck to you in future tournaments, man.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Hello. How are you guys feeling after that very long best of 5 series?
Oh, I'm feeling great, and we had to, stretch it out to a best of 5. We were running a quick 2-0, but we decided the viewers need some more games to watch, so...
Yeah, I guess I just had to show off how good we are in the bot lane. We really appreciated the perma 4v2s. They're super fun.
So we asked Blue this a minute ago, but I'm curious what y'all were thinking about it. Walk us through what it was like kind of going that shift where you win the first 2 games, and then you kind of go 2 down, and you're looking like you get a reverse sweep. What were y'all thinking?
Well, I was thinking, you know what? We're still having fun. We're going to have fun. We went to game 5 with the goal of just having fun. What about you, Gaston?
And on top of that, we had a PMO positive mental outlook or positive mental, I don't know, something like that. But we were chilling. We were like, we're going to go 2-1. All right, fine. That's fine. We're going to go 3-1 now. And when he went 2-2, we were like, that's fine. We're going to go 3-2. We already knew we had it in the bag the entire time just because of how well our team's been playing together, the practice we put in, the communication throughout the entire game.
Awesome.
Shout out to Captain Pig. Look, we're on TV.
I do have a quick question. What was the idea behind the game 4 draft?
Oh,
Well-
was that the Singed game?
That was a Singed game.
That was an interesting... We haven't played that one before. We were going all dive in on one person. So we wanted the Viego reset, so we had Singed run in, try and flip one person. We'll hopefully get the Viego reset from there and capitalize on that and try and win the team fight 5v4 from there. Didn't look too well for us, though.
Yeah, we were definitely commenting that was probably one of the more awkward executing drafts, and it was like, it's fine on paper, but yeah, Black Mage was really outspoken against that draft. He was like, I don't like this.
Yeah,
when
too
you
many
saw
an
me,
interesting one.
mind control, illusion, AD carry, so.
100%.
And on top of that,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
A shout out to the enemy team. The plays they were finding, it was 4 people would pop out of nowhere on different sides of the map, and they felt like it felt like they were everywhere. Whether we were trying to find a play top side or bot side, they were contesting us everywhere. So they did great.
Awesome.
Yeah, y'all played out of your minds almost every single game. Your bot lane, especially the bot lane combo, was just excellent. I think it was one point during game 1 or 2. It was the game where you were on Sivir, Gaston, where we were watching a 3v4 turn into a 2v4, and somehow you both ended up still winning that fight towards the Baron. That was awesome.
That was the Baron fights this series were a blast, and the team fights too. They were well executed by both sides, and it was
Shout
a
out to
blast
Chicken.
playing
He
it.
hit an insane Syndra stun on the Baron pit. I think that's what really turned it.
Yep.
We did see quite a few of those double stuns. Those were excellent and really made it memorable for us to watch. We're just hoping that we see more of that in Purple Division for months to come when more teams join it. And hopefully this rivalry between your team and ATO continues further down the line.
That would be amazing. I love the idea of that, and I also love the idea of continually beating them. So this is going to be a great rivalry, although one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to interview. Congratulations on becoming champion. I'm sure you guys are ecstatic to go. Cheer with your team. Enjoy the win. Watch this final series, and enjoy being the first Purple Division TLS champions.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.